Xing, please try to understand me. My parents are just ordinary farmers. It wasn't easy for them to save money to buy a house. There's no need for you to haggle over whose name is on the property deed. When we get married, won't we still be the ones living in the house? Xiao Xing sat on a park bench, listening to Lin Yu's incessant persuasion. She remained silent. She had been dating Lin Yu for 2 years. Lin Yu was 29 this year, and his parents were anxious about his marriage, so they had been discussing their wedding recently. Unexpectedly, everything had been going smoothly before, but when it came to the house and the bride price, conflicts arose. Xing. Xiao Xing looked up and interrupted him. Lin Yu, I also contributed 200,000 yuan for the house. Why does it have to be your father's name? Even putting your name would be fine. Are you saying that even before we're married, you're already planning for divorce? Lin Yu was stunned for a moment. He hastily explained, how can you think like that? What does it matter whose name is on the house deed? As long as we live well together, that's all that matters. Buying a house has emptied out half their life savings. They just want some peace of mind. Why do you have to be so calculative with elderly people? Xiao Xing found it somewhat amusing. She looked at Lin Yu. They have peace of mind, but what about me? What do I count for in your eyes? Your entire family only contributed 300,000, and I contributed 200,000. If their name is on it, and there's a mortgage after marriage, will they pay it? No. Why do you keep comparing yourself to them? How can that be the same? Besides, how could they have money to pay the mortgage? Don't worry about the mortgage. I'll pay it. You can just stay at home with peace of mind, be a good wife and mother, and take good care of my parents. Be a good wife and mother, or be a slave for your family. Lin Yu, why didn't I realize before that you're such a calculating person? You said your family had no money for the bride price after buying the house, and I told you that 18,000 as a gesture would be fine. You said 18,000 would kill your entire family and haggled with me down to 800. For the sake of our 2-year relationship, I tolerated that too. When the down payment for the house was short, I used all my savings to buy the house. Now you want your father's name on the property deed, and they also want to move in, making me quit my job to take care of them at home. At this, Xiao Xing couldn't help but curl her lips in a self-mocking smile. So, I used all my life savings to become a full-time nanny for myself? Is that right? She felt that she had truly been blind back then. Because of Lin Yu's small acts of kindness, she thought he was a reliable man. Now she realized that for Lin Yu, time was the cheapest cost. He had plenty of time to study her preferences, pay attention to all her details, and be meticulously considerate to win her affection. However, when it came to personal gain, he revealed his true colors. Xiao Xing felt as if her heart was pricked by countless needles. The dense, throbbing pain made it hard for her to breathe. After leaving his house, her mind had been muddled. Now, with a gust of wind, she finally sobered up. Lin Yu was still trying his best to persuade her, gripping Xiao Xing's hand and saying, Xing, don't say that. We'll get better and better. I'm about to get a promotion, and I'll earn money to support you in the future. I like you. I sincerely want to marry you, and I've always been working hard for you. Xiao Xing pulled her hand free and suddenly stood up. Do you think I didn't sincerely want to marry you? Then why would you? Before Lin Yu could finish, Xiao Xing added, but not anymore. We won't be getting married, and there won't be a future for us. Don't say anything about for my sake. Wouldn't you work hard without me? Wouldn't you earn money? Xiao Xing took out her phone, opened WeChat, and transferred 8,800 yuan to Lin Yu. The bride price is returned to you. Give me back the 200,000 for the house. Let's break up. Lin Yu froze, looking at Xiao Xing in disbelief. Are you serious? We've been together for 2 years. You're breaking up with me just because of the house. Why have you become so materialistic now? His words stabbed Xiao Xing's heart again. She held back her tears and said, word by word, yes, I am materialistic. I'll give you 1 month to return the money to me. Otherwise, we'll see each other in court. Xiao Xing suppressed her emotions, turned, and walked away. She didn't want to stay with Lin Yu for another second. But Lin Yu chased after her, grabbing her arm to stop her from leaving. The house has already been bought. Where am I going to find money for you? Please don't do this, okay? That's your problem. You solve it yourself. We've already broken up. Xiao Xing shook him off again and walked out of the park without looking back. Lin Yu, still not giving up, chased after her again, clinging to her. Xiao Xing simply hailed a taxi by the roadside, leaving him behind. Lin Yu watched her taxi drive away. The pleasant expression on his face instantly vanished, replaced by a furious rage that contorted his features. He truly couldn't bear to lose Xiao Xing. Not because he loved her deeply, but because she was cheap. Other women's bride prices were hundreds of thousands, but she didn't ask for any, and even willingly contributed money to buy a house for him. She was also beautiful, several years younger than him, and didn't spend money recklessly. Where could he find a woman like that now? If Xiao Xing knew his current thoughts, she would only be even more utterly disappointed. But everything his family had done so far was already enough to make Xiao Xing disheartened. Of that 200,000, half was given to her by her grandmother. The other 100,000 was saved by her through years of frugality. Unexpectedly, while she was wholeheartedly planning for their future, Lin Yu was racking his brains to scheme against her. Xiao Xing closed her eyes, no longer wanting to think about those messy things. On her way home, she bought some fruit to visit Grandpa Qin next door. Grandpa Qin was an elderly man living alone, with his children all abroad. When her grandmother was still alive, he often came to Xiao Xing's house to visit. He would bring any good things he had to her house, and was particularly kind to Xiao Xing. Now that her grandmother was gone, the old man rarely came out. Xiao Xing would go to visit him every few days. When Xiao Xing arrived, she got out of the car with the fruit and headed straight for Grandpa Qin's house. This was an old residential complex, with no elevators, and all buildings were only 6 stories high. Grandpa Qin lived on the 2nd floor. She knocked on the door and waited for over a minute. Grandpa Qin opened the door a crack. Seeing it was Xiao Xing, his face instantly lit up with a smile, and he immediately opened the door wide. Xing is here? The old man, holding his cane, made way for Xiao Xing. Come in quickly. Xiao Xing smiled and nodded. A few days ago, you mentioned the bathroom pipe was leaking. I happened to be free today, so I came to take a look for you. She walked into the house and closed the door. She heard the gushing sound of water from the bathroom. Was the leak that serious? But after a few seconds, the sound of water stopped. But what Xiao Xing paid more attention to was that there was another girl in the living room. She looked to be in her 20s, with curly hair, exquisite makeup, and dressed very fashionably. Grandpa Qin, do you have a guest? Xiao Xing felt a little awkward about walking further in. Grandpa Qin turned to speak, but the woman spoke first. I'm leaving soon, Uncle Qin. To save our time, I'll be direct. Bye Pai. Calm. She looked around the house with contempt. Your grandson doesn't even have a house. Are an entire family going to squeeze into this rundown place after marriage? If I am to marry him, he needs a 4-bedroom, 1 living room apartment in the city center, plus an additional 880,000 yuan as bride price. If these can be met, then we can talk. Her bluntness made Grandpa Qin's face fall. Miss Wu. Before Grandpa Qin could finish, another magnetic voice came from the bathroom. Miss Wu, you might have misunderstood. I don't recall saying I wanted to marry you. As the voice sounded, a man walked out from the bathroom. The man was very handsome, his features sharply defined. He was over 1.8 meters tall, wearing a black shirt with the cuffs rolled up, revealing long, slender fingers that were still stained with water. His face was expressionless, yet his eyes revealed an indifference. The aura he exuded was filled with an oppressive power, making it impossible to associate him with a poor young man. The moment Xiao Xing saw him, she was profoundly struck by his appearance, though she also found him somewhat familiar. The moment he spoke, the woman's face flushed crimson. It seemed no one had ever scorned her like that. She glared angrily at the man, saying, Who cares about marrying you? You're 30 and still have nothing to your name. What good are good looks then? What a waste. Qin severely glanced at her, showing no emotional reaction to her words. Then please, suit yourself. The woman was choked into silence. She glared fiercely at Qin Su. You've wasted my time. Such an arrogant narcissist. Even after she said that, Qin Su remained unprovoked. Unable to hold back any longer, the woman grabbed her bag and left, her high heels clicking angrily on the floor. Once the woman left, the atmosphere in the room became a little awkward. Xing, don't just stand there, come and sit. Please don't laugh. This is my eldest grandson. He just came back a couple of days ago, and I was thinking of inviting a friend's daughter over to meet him. But who would have thought? Oh dear. Grandpa Qin quickly changed the subject at this point. Xing, this is Qin Su. You two used to play together when you were little. Do you remember? Hearing Grandpa Qin say this, she looked at Qin Su again. She suddenly remembered why he looked familiar. She had indeed played with him when she was very young. But Qin Su had left when she was 5 and never returned. Or perhaps he had returned, but she simply hadn't known. She gave a dry laugh. A little impression. Grandpa Qin then looked at Qin Su. Son, do you remember Xing? Qin Su also glanced at her, his gaze lingering on her face for 2 seconds before he withdrew it. No. After saying that, he walked back towards the bathroom. Grandpa, please stop bringing those random people to the house. She didn't know if he was referring to her or the Miss Wu who had just left, but either way, Xiaoxing felt too embarrassed to stay any longer. Xiaoxing placed the fruit on the coffee table and said with an awkward smile to Grandpa Qin, Grandpa Qin, since someone is fixing your pipe now, I'll be going. Don't rush off, you just got here. Come and sit. Grandpa has something to ask you. Grandpa Qin's insistence was hard to refuse, so Xiaoxing reluctantly sat down on the main sofa. Grandpa Qin, please ask. Xing, weren't you going to your boyfriend's house today to discuss marriage? How did the discussion go? Xiaoxing paused slightly, a dull ache returning to her chest as she recalled what Lin Yu's parents had said earlier. No, we've already broken up. What? Grandpa Qin's face registered surprise, but after the initial shock, a hint of delight appeared in his eyes. Xiaoxing didn't know what to say, so she simply found a perfunctory excuse. Some things just weren't settled, so we broke up. Was it about the bride price? Something like that. Xiaoxing didn't want to discuss the topic further. Grandpa Qin, since your grandson is back, I won't disturb your reunion. I'll come visit you another day. Wait a minute. Grandpa Qin grabbed her arm and pulled her back to sit on the sofa. Xing, you really broke up? Xiaoxing furrowed her brow. This old man usually didn't care much about her relationships, so why was he pestering her relentlessly today? Out of politeness, Xiaoxing still nodded and replied, yes. And you won't get back together in the future? No. Grandpa Qin, why are you asking this? She had already seen Lin Yu's true character. There was no possibility of reconciliation in the future. Grandpa Qin smiled mysteriously and turned his head to shout towards the bathroom. Xiao Su, come out now. Xiaoxing was utterly confused, wondering what Grandpa Qin was up to. After waiting 2 minutes, he still didn't come out. Grandpa Qin grew angry and instantly roared with a booming voice. Qin Su. The deafening sound startled even Xiaoxing. After a while, Qin Su leisurely emerged from the bathroom. He calmly sat down on the sofa, subconsciously reaching for the cigarette in his pocket, but then remembering the old man couldn't stand the smell of smoke, he lowered his hand. Grandpa Qin ignored him and instead said to Xiaoxing, Xing, what do you think of my grandson? Huh? Xiaoxing instinctively glanced at Qin Su, her face blank with confusion. Qin Su's reaction, however, was quite normal. A hint of exasperation finally appeared on his indifferent face. Grandpa Qin said, Xing, actually, Grandpa has always hoped for you to be my granddaughter-in-law. But this rascal never came back, and you had a boyfriend, so it wasn't easy for me to say anything. But this time, it's a coincidence. Xiao Su is back, and you've broken up. What does that mean? It means your destiny has arrived. You two should get married. The last sentence struck Xiaoxing like a bolt of lightning. Xiaoxing didn't know if he was joking or serious, and dared not speak. Qin Su spoke up. Grandpa, that's enough. The old man glared at him. You shut up. Don't you know how old you are? Other girls are one thing, but Xing is a good girl, and I just want her to be my granddaughter-in-law. Plain and simple. Xing, my grandson is good in every way, just a bit dull and low in emotional intelligence. Other than that, he's excellent. Grandpa wouldn't harm you, right? As long as you nod, just name your price for the bride dowry. As for this boy's opinion, you don't need to worry about it. The old man was like a salesman, tirelessly expounding on his grandson's virtues, completely disregarding Qin Su's feelings beside him. Let me tell you, Xiao Su is currently... Grandpa, Qin Su suddenly interrupted him, his voice slightly raised, startling the old man who was rambling on. Seeing this, he softened his tone. For matters like this, perhaps we should discuss it ourselves. He could tell the old man was very fond of Qiao Xing, and if he didn't intervene, Grandpa would spill all his secrets. The old man eyed him suspiciously. Can you discuss it properly? However we discuss it, we'll stick to the facts. His words seemed to carry a hidden meaning that Qiao Xing didn't quite grasp, but the old man understood. He had confidence in Qiao Xing and believed she wasn't the kind of girl who was vain and materialistic. Even if this Qin fellow claimed to be penniless, she wouldn't disdain him. The old man thought for a moment and agreed. All right then, you two can discuss it privately. I won't interfere. Qin nodded and then said to Qiao Xing, let's exchange WeChat. I have something to do today, so we can talk in detail tomorrow when I have time. Once their WeChat accounts were exchanged, she instantly felt there was no need for her to stay any longer. Then I'll be leaving, Grandpa Qin. Go on, go on. Qiao Xing breathed a sigh of relief. She truly didn't know how to refuse the old man's kind intentions, but marriage was no trivial matter, and Qin had, in a way, helped her out of a predicament. Opening the door, Qiao Xing swiftly slipped into the room across the hall, her own home. Some refusals were simply hard to say face to face. Since they had exchanged WeChat, if Grandpa Qin asked again later, she could just say they weren't compatible. It provided a buffer. After Qiao Xing left, the old man's face immediately darkened. Why didn't you let me speak just now? Qin calmly said. That woman surnamed Wu was also arranged by you? Why didn't you tell her? If you had told her, wouldn't you have a daughter-in-law? The old man choked a bit. Miss Wu was the granddaughter of an old chess friend of his. The chess friend said how good his granddaughter was, so he took this opportunity to call her over to see. But as soon as the girl entered, she was picky about everything, and he really couldn't bring himself to like her. Therefore, when Qin introduced himself as having nothing, he didn't stop him either. The old man stubbornly added, this Xing is different. Qin countered, how is she different? How do you expect me to explain? Anyway, this is a good girl. You should seize the opportunity. Your company has moved back to China, so you shouldn't be going abroad, right? Get married soon. Don't let your grandpa die with regrets. Qin's brow furrowed slightly, and his expression darkened a bit. What are you talking about? Although his voice wasn't loud, the aura he unintentionally exuded made the old man flinch for a moment. However, this also showed that his words had an effect, and the old man instantly became smug again. I'm already 80 this year. How many more years do I have to live? Anyway, you decide. If you want to acknowledge me as your grandpa, then marry Xing for me. If it weren't for her these past few years, I might have died in the house without anyone knowing. Hearing this, Qin also fell silent. His gaze fell on a certain spot, deep in thought. He had heard everything the woman just said to his grandpa, how the engagement broke off with her boyfriend over the bride price, and now she was coming to the old man to complain. He didn't think much of this woman, but he was curious to meet her. Meanwhile, Qiao Xing returned home and collapsed onto the sofa. Her mind was filled with everything that had happened today. Frazzled, she turned over, curling up in the corner of the sofa. Just as she was about to sleep and forget about the day's events, her phone suddenly rang. Qiao Xing picked it up and saw that it was a message from Qin. She hadn't had time to change the contact name yet. Qin's WeChat name was just a capital Q, and his profile picture was a doodle. She opened WeChat. Qin said, 8 p.m. tonight, you pick a place. Qiao Xing was slightly stunned. Was he serious? She typed in the chat window, then deleted it, typing and deleting repeatedly, finally just replying with OK. It's better to discuss things in person. No sooner had Qiao Xing replied than another call came in. The caller ID showed Uncle. Seeing the caller ID, Qiao Xing's brows furrowed. She hesitated for a moment, then answered the call. Hello, Uncle. Xiao Shuang, how's your house hunting going? Your cousin is coming back to get married next month. It's not that Uncle won't let you stay, it's just that we have to sell this house to buy a new one in the city center, so. Qiao Xing fell silent for a moment. I understand. I'm already looking at houses, and will move out in a few days. I'm really sorry. It's fine, it was your house to begin with. Qiao Xing paused. Uncle, may I ask how much this house sold for? Sigh, an old house isn't worth much. They'll only pay at most 500,000. 500,000. Hearing this amount, Qiao Xing's heart stirred slightly. Xiaoxing had lived here since she was very young. When her parents divorced, neither wanted to take care of her. Her maternal grandmother raised her single-handedly. This house held over 20 years of her memories. Before her grandmother passed away, she told her not to let her uncle sell this house. But this house wasn't hers. What right did she have to say anything? If she had money, she could buy this house. For some reason, Xiaoxing suddenly thought of Grandpa Qin's words, but she suppressed the thought after just a second. Soon, it was 8 p.m. Qin knocked on the door punctually. Xiaoxing didn't want to go out, so she invited him to her place. It was close anyway. Hearing the knock, Xiaoxing immediately went to open the door. Qin stood outside. Looking at him up close, he was indeed very tall. Xiaoxing had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. He had changed into a white shirt, and overall, he looked less aloof than during the day. Actually, Xiaoxing had been trying to recall Qin earlier, but too much time had passed, and she was young back then, so she couldn't remember many things. In her memory, there was only a quiet, reserved boy who would shut himself in his room whenever she visited Grandpa Qin's house. As for playing together, at most, they had shared meals, but nothing else seemed to stand out. "May I come in?" Qin's voice broke her thoughts. Xiaoxing snapped back to reality and quickly let him in. "Please come in. You don't need to change your shoes." After saying that, she turned to pour him some water. Qin entered and looked around. There were no men's slippers in the shoe cabinet, and the room was very tidy. The two sat down on the sofa, and the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Xiaoxing couldn't help but speak first. What did you mainly want to talk about?" Qin leaned back on the sofa, crossing his legs, adopting the posture of a formidable boss, which gave Xiaoxing the illusion that he was about to negotiate with her. He got straight to the point. "My grandpa really likes you. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Qin Su. I'm 30 years old this year. Currently, I don't own a house, only a car. I plan to develop my career domestically for now and haven't found a job yet. My parents are divorced. I've lived abroad with my mother for these past years. She got married abroad and probably won't be returning to China anytime soon. Also, I have a younger brother who lives with my father, but he's not in Yuzhou City. I came back mainly because of my grandpa. I'll be staying in Yuzhou for at least 10 years. Is there anything else you need to know?" After he finished speaking, Xiaoxing hesitated for a moment before saying, "Then what are your thoughts? If it's because of Grandpa Qin, there's actually no need." Qin shook his head. "Not entirely. Marriage isn't a necessity for me. Marrying anyone would be the same. The main thing is to make the old man happy. Grandpa is right. You don't need to consider my opinion. It's mainly about your opinion." Xiaoxing felt a bit awkward for a moment. Qin added, "You don't need to rush. You can take your time to consider. It's fine whether you refuse or agree." Xiaoxing thought for a moment, then tentatively asked, "So, do you have any savings?" His eyebrows subtly arched. "Savings? Yes. Not much, but it should be enough to live on. You don't need to worry about that. You won't starve." Hearing him say that, Xiaoxing's face felt a little hot. She took a deep breath and still said, "Then I'll introduce myself too. My name is Xiaoxing. I'm 26 years old this year. As for my parents, I haven't been in contact with them for over 10 years. I'm the only one in my family. I don't have any siblings. Currently, I mainly work as an administrator at a tech company. My average salary is around 8,000. And I was in a relationship for 2 years. That's all." Qin nodded slightly. "What are your requirements?" Xiaoxing pursed her lips, then bit down and said, "I want a bride price of 300,000 yuan. You have to pay this yourself, not Grandpa Qin. If you agree, then we'll get married." Qin had originally been expressionless, but after hearing her words, his gaze became subtly complex. He stared at her with a half-smile, as if watching a performance she had directed herself. His gaze made Xiaoxing feel somewhat abashed. She also felt she had been too greedy and quickly changed her tune. "Of course, if you think that's too much, 200,000 is also fine, but it can't be less than 200,000. 200,000, plus the 200,000 from Lin Yu's side. And if she took out a loan for another 100,000, she could buy the house. 300,000, that's not unreasonable. What about you then? What's your dowry?" Qin leaned back on the sofa, his expression unreadable as he stared at her. "This house, you can live here, or we can add your name to the deed. Anyway, it's close to Grandpa Chin's home, so we can both take good care of him. Chin-su was in no hurry to speak. He just stared at her, and time slowly ticked by between them. Xiao Xing had been on blind dates before, but she had never been this nervous. This was less like a blind date and more like a negotiation. But only by buying this house could they continue to live here, so his 200,000 was crucial. If they bought the house then and added his name, him contributing 200,000 wouldn't be a loss. Without her knowing, Chin-su stood up, his hands in his pockets, and looked down at her. Then it's settled. I can pay the 300,000. As for the name, there's no need to add it. Xiao Xing waved her hands repeatedly. No need for 300,000, 200,000 is fine. I know it's not easy for you either. Chin-su glanced at her sideways, not haggling with her. When should we register the marriage? Xiao Xing was startled. Huh? Are you in a hurry? We're getting married sooner or later anyway. Why not get the certificate early while I have some free time these 2 days? Xiao Xing was silent for a moment. He was so straightforward, she couldn't really procrastinate. Okay, once you transfer the money, we'll go get the certificate right away. Chin-su said no more. He nodded, indicating the matter was settled, and then left Xiao Xing's home. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Grandpa Chin standing at the entrance, clinging to the door and eavesdropping. When the door suddenly opened, the old man nearly stumbled. It was Chin-su, quick-eyed and quick-handed, who grabbed his shoulder, preventing the old man from falling. What are you doing here? The old man was a little embarrassed. He cleared his throat and asked, How did the talk go? Chin-su curled his lips in an ambiguous smile. Is this the girl you had your eye on? Of course, what's wrong? The old man frowned, unable to discern the meaning of his words. Chin-su didn't explain further. He supported the old man. Let's talk about it when we get back. This Xiao Xing was quite cunning. She was far from the simple and kind person Grandpa Chin described. While coaxing the old man to her will, she also asked him for 300,000 and told him not to tell the old man. Her methods were indeed clever. Chin-su didn't mention the bride price to Grandpa Chin, only telling him that it was settled. Seeing the old man's face beaming with smiles, Chin-su felt that spending 200,000 to make the old man happy was worth it. However, he also told the old man, regarding the marriage, please don't make a big fuss. I don't want too much trouble. The old man's smile faltered halfway, his face falling. He was displeased. Why? Shouldn't we hold a grand banquet for a wedding, inviting all our relatives and friends to drink the wedding wine? After Chin-su entered the house, he closed the door and helped the old man sit on the sofa. He patiently explained, the banquet can be held anytime. The key to marriage is getting the certificate. Besides, you should at least give me some time to get used to her and understand her. What if we don't get along later and get divorced? If we hold such a grand banquet, it would be difficult for her to remarry later, wouldn't it? You rotten brat. The old man, enraged, punched him. Although he used a lot of force, it didn't seem to hurt Chin-su. You're not even married yet, and you're already thinking about divorce. Chin-su said, anything can happen. Just because you like her doesn't mean everyone else has to. Besides, I'm just saying what if, not definitely. You're overthinking it. The old man listened to his sensible words and began to ponder. All right then, you two can cultivate your relationship first. Once you're used to her, then we'll hold the banquet. After Chin-su left, Xiao Xing gulped down the cup of water he hadn't touched. She didn't know if her decision was right, but Chin-su seemed like a decent person. He wasn't like Lin Yu, who was full of sweet talk. He seemed more down to earth. If he could provide 200,000, the house would be saved. Before this, she had never dared to think this way, always believing that marriage was sacred and shouldn't be linked to money. Now she realized she had been too naive. This was a society that valued money. Even lovers would scheme. Where was pure love to be found? Xiao Xing couldn't sleep all night, tossing and turning in bed until the sky outside began to turn a fishbelly white. She sighed, resignedly getting out of bed. It was Monday, and she still had to go to work. After Xiao Xing finished washing up, her phone on the table rang. It was a message from Chin-su, asking for her bank account number. Xiao Xing didn't hesitate, sending the account number directly. By the time she boarded the bus, a transfer text message arrived on her phone. As Xiao Xing looked at the string of zeros, she finally realized that she seemed to have made an extraordinary decision. Chinsa then sent her a transfer receipt on WeChat, along with a message. 2:30 p.m., bring your household registration book. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Concise and to the point, it directly decided their future. Xiaoxing's fingers trembled slightly. She suppressed the complex emotions in her heart and typed a reply. Okay. After receiving the money, Xiaoxing immediately called her uncle, but no one answered. He was probably at work, so she had to give up. Xiaoxing's job, apart from being busy at the beginning and end of the month, was quite relaxed at other times. So when she had nothing to do, she would secretly take on part-time work online, writing short scripts and copy for others. In a good month, she could earn 5,000 to 6,000, and in a less good month, 1,000 to 2,000. That 100,000 she had saved came from this. The script she had taken on last week was already finished. She sent the draft immediately after her morning meeting. As it was almost time to leave work, she received a call from the front desk saying Lin Yu was there to see her. Lin Yu used to pick her up from work every day, so he naturally knew her company. Xiaoxing didn't really want to see him, but she was afraid he would cause trouble at the company, so she went anyway. She arrived at the company's front desk, where Lin Yu was waiting on a sofa in the lobby, holding a bouquet of roses. Seeing Xiaoxing emerge, he immediately approached her with the roses. Xingxing, let's talk outside. Xiaoxing pulled him to the corridor outside the company, looking at him indifferently. She didn't take his roses. Say whatever you have to say here. Lin Yu felt a bit awkward holding the flowers. He looked around and, seeing that the corridor was empty, gently pulled Xiaoxing's hand and whispered, Are you still angry? Let's talk it over properly. Talk about what? I discussed it with my parents last night, and they've compromised. The house will be registered under my name. You should be relieved now, right? Xiaoxing looked at him deeply. What about my name then? Lin Yu was a little troubled. He said gently, Oh, it's just a name. Isn't it the same if we write mine? Mine is yours. Don't be so calculating about such a small matter, okay? Xiaoxing shook him off and said coldly, Lin Yu, do you think this is about the house? This is about your attitude. I'm actually very grateful to your parents for letting me see you for who you truly are. We can't be together anymore. Pay me back the money sooner, and stop bothering me. Xingxing, you should know when to stop. Is it really necessary for you to argue with me over whose name to put down? Have you never even considered building a good life with me? Xiaoxing was so angered by his words that she laughed. 2 years, and in his eyes, she was always this kind of person. He had never once thought from her perspective. It was always just himself and his parents. This incident completely shattered Xiaoxing's illusions about love. Now, she felt that shedding even a single tear for Lin Yu would be an insult to the 2 years she had invested. Yes, it's exactly as you think. So why are you still bothering me? Do you not understand what breaking up means? Lin Yu was momentarily choked. He realized he had said too much and lowered his voice. I was wrong. Xingxing, I was just too anxious. I'm afraid of losing you. Please don't break up, okay? We can discuss the house again. There's nothing to discuss, Lin Yu. I'm not desperate to get married. By the way, I've already arranged to get my marriage certificate with someone else this afternoon. You'd better not come looking for me again, in case my husband misunderstands. Lin Yu froze for a moment. He naturally didn't believe Xiaoxing's words. How could someone as conservative as her casually marry another man? He remembered when he first met Xiaoxing. They were both rushing to pay the bill during dinner. In his haste, he tried to grab her phone but accidentally grabbed her hand instead. She was so startled that she pulled her hand back, even letting go of her phone, which fell to the ground and shattered its screen. It was precisely because of this that Lin Yu knew she had probably never been in a relationship, which made him determined to pursue her. Things went just as he expected. She was easy to win over. Just remember her preferences, take her to eat what she liked, walk on her left side when crossing the road, pay attention to small details, care for her more, and give her enough security. He could even win her over without spending any money. She didn't recognize designer brands. She couldn't even tell that the fakes he gave her were counterfeit. She would even buy him more expensive gifts in return. Aside from being too conservative, she was the most perfect, virtuous wife and loving mother. Economical and hassle-free. Xingxing, don't say things out of anger. You know it wasn't easy for my parents to raise me, and I have to consider their feelings too. Don't make things difficult for me. How about this? I'll go back and try to convince them again. You know how much I care about you. I truly want to marry you. Xiao Xing didn't want to listen anymore. I'm not saying things out of anger. If you don't believe me, then so be it. I'll say it again, we've broken up. I hope you stop bothering me. After saying this, Xiao Xing entered the company. Lin Yu wanted to go in and sweet-talk her, but his pride stopped him at the front desk. Another key point was that there were many single women in Xiao Xing's company. The image of a good man he had cultivated over the past 2 years was highly praised there. If he truly couldn't win Xiao Xing back, at least those single women in her company would be a fallback. The receptionist saw the roses he hadn't given away and playfully asked with a smile, "What's wrong? Did you two have a fight?" Lin Yu gave a wry smile. Yes. I don't know what else I can do to satisfy her." His words sounded like self-reproach, but in reality, he was implying that Xiao Xing was being unreasonable. Xiao Xing was unaware of his hidden motives. She had already made up her mind not to turn back. Since she had accepted Qin Su's money, what she should be thinking about was how to live the rest of her life well. She checked online. The Civil Affairs Bureau was very far from the company, an hour by bus. She also had to go back home to get her household registration booklet, which would make the journey even longer. After work, Xiao Xing rushed home without even stopping for dinner. She took a taxi back to get her household registration booklet, then took another taxi to the Civil Affairs Bureau. When she arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Qin Su was leaning against a Mercedes, talking on the phone. Xiao Xing took out her phone and checked the time, 2:40 p.m. Qin Su saw her, said "talk later" into the phone, and hung up. He raised his hand to look at his wristwatch and said to Xiao Xing, "You're late." Xiao Xing explained apologetically, "I went back to get my household registration booklet. I'm really sorry." Qin Su didn't say anything more. "Let's go. Let's make this quick. We can't park here for too long." Xiao Xing was stunned for a moment and then looked at his car again. A Mercedes E300. Lin Yu had told her before that he would buy this car in the future, so she was somewhat familiar with it. This car cost 5 or 600,000 yuan. "You drive such a nice car?" Qin Su instinctively glanced back at his Mercedes. It was the cheapest car he could find in his garage. But seeing Xiao Xing's surprised look, he still explained, "I bought it with a loan." Oh, Xiao Xing wasn't sure what to say, but having been taken advantage of by Lin Yu, she still asked in advance, "How much did you borrow? How much do you have to pay back each month?" "Not much. Don't worry, you don't have to pay it back, and you don't need to worry about future living expenses." "Any other questions?" Xiao Xing thought for a moment. "Do you have any other debts?" Marriage was a big deal. It was better to be cautious. There was no emotional foundation between her and Qin Su. Simply put, it was a transaction, so naturally, she had to ask everything she needed to know. "No." Xiao Xing breathed a sigh of relief. "All right then, I have no more questions. Do you have anything else you need to ask me? If not, we'll go get the certificate." "No." Xiao Xing. After Qin Su finished speaking, he walked into the entrance first. Xiao Xing gritted her teeth and quickly followed him. There weren't many people registering, so they finished everything in less than 10 minutes. When they came out, each of them held a marriage certificate. Seeing the 3 large characters, marriage certificate, Xiao Xing's mind went blank for a moment. She never expected to get married just like that. "I'm leaving first. Contact me on WeChat if anything comes up." After coming out, Qin Su got into his car and drove away without giving Xiao Xing a chance to speak. Xiao Xing touched the tip of her nose, then looked down at the marriage certificate in her hand. If it weren't for those 3 shiny golden characters, she wouldn't even feel like she was married. His attitude was so cold that Xiao Xing felt a little worried about how they would get along in the future. Xiao Xing took the afternoon off. She didn't plan to go back to the company, but instead went to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities and then some groceries. The house left by her grandmother had 3 bedrooms. The other 2 rooms hadn't been lived in for a long time. When her grandmother was alive, her uncle's family would come back for Chinese New Year, but since her grandmother passed away, they hadn't returned. Xiao Xing replaced the duvet covers in all 3 rooms with new ones. She'd see how Qin Su wanted to sleep later. The thought of sleeping at night made the duvet covers in her hand feel much heavier. She quickly changed the duvet covers and arranged the newly bought toiletries in the bathroom. It was almost 6 in the evening. Xiao Xing then went to inform Grandpa Qin about dinner. Grandpa Qin was so happy when he learned they had registered their marriage that he couldn't stop smiling. On such a good day, of course, Grandpa will come. The old man looked at her beaming, as if looking at something precious. Grandpa's wishes finally come true. Oh, by the way, let Grandpa see the marriage certificate. Xiao Xing rummaged in her pocket and handed the marriage certificate to Grandpa Qin. Grandpa Qin held the marriage certificate, turning it over and over. Seeing that he had no intention of returning it, Xiao Xing asked, "Oh, right, Grandpa, what does Qin so like to eat? I just messaged him, but he hasn't replied. I don't know if he'll be back tonight." Grandpa Qin heard this, and the hand flipping through the marriage certificate paused. He then said grumpily, "On such a joyous day, if he doesn't come back, where else would he go? That brat didn't even say he'd come back with you. You don't need to worry about him. Just make anything. He's not picky about food." Xiao Xing felt the old man was speaking out of anger, but she still asked, "Does he have any dietary restrictions? He's a grown man. What dietary restrictions could he possibly have?" "All right then, I'll go back and make dinner now." Grandpa Qin quickly called out to stop her. "Come make dinner here. Now we're all family. What's yours and mine anymore?" Xiao Xing thought about it and agreed. Grandpa Qin's legs weren't good, and it was inconvenient for him to run around every day. She nodded and smiled. "Okay, then from now on, I'll just cook directly here at your place." Ever since her grandmother passed away, Xiao Xing had no family left. She regarded Grandpa Qin as her own biological grandfather, but due to their status, she could only occasionally make some food to visit him. From now on, she wouldn't need to worry about these things. She could go talk to Grandpa Qin every day. Grandpa Qin looked at her with appreciation, his eyes a little moist. He, too, truly regarded Xiao Xing as his own granddaughter. Xiao Xing went back into the house, brought over the groceries she had bought, and went straight into the kitchen to cook. The old man sat on the sofa outside, watching the clock on the wall reach 6 in the evening. He pulled out his senior-friendly phone and called Qinsu. Qinsu was swamped with work at the company. When he received the old man's call, his brows furrowed, but he couldn't not answer. He held his phone, raised a hand to interrupt the manager who was speaking, then answered the call. "Hello, Grandpa. What are you doing, you brat?" Qinsu pinched the bridge of his nose and said tiredly, "Having a meeting at the company." "What time is it already, and you're still having a meeting? Have you forgotten what day it is today?" "Today is Monday." "You?" Grandpa Qin almost choked. He fumed. "Today is your wedding day. You're having a meeting. What kind of damn meeting are you having? I'm giving you half an hour. If you don't come back, then never come back." The old man hung up the phone in a huff. The conference room was very quiet. The old man's voice was too loud, especially for those close to Qinsu. It was hard not to hear. More than half of the executives here had followed him back from abroad, so they were quite familiar with Qinsu. Their faces were all astonished. They were all surprised by the same thing. President Qin is getting married today? This is too dedicated, isn't it? Still busy with work even on his wedding day. "President Qin, you're getting married? Why didn't you inform us?" Qinsu sighed, not wanting to discuss this topic with them. He waved his hand and said, "That's all for today. We'll continue the meeting tomorrow." Having said that, he stood up, picked up his jacket, and walked out. He arrived at the company entrance, where Xiao Li, his driver, had been waiting for a long time. Qinsu glanced at the Maybach and frowned. "Xiao Li, bring over the Mercedes from this morning. You won't need to pick me up or drop me off anymore." Xiao Li's eyes widened in panic, and he began to stutter. "PR President Qin, did I do something wrong? Please don't fire me. When did I say I was going to fire you? Hurry up and go." Xiao Li was startled by the words, immediately agreed, and quickly ran to the parking lot to drive the Mercedes E300 over. Qinsu took the car keys, got into the car, and stomped on the gas, driving the car out. It was rush hour and traffic was jammed. He was stuck at a traffic light intersection and turned his head to see a wedding ring shop across the street. Xiao Xing finished cooking and brought the dishes to the table. Grandpa Qin, leaning on his cane, leaned towards the dining table and sniffed. So many dishes. Xiao Xing was a little embarrassed. "Isn't today a special day?" Hearing Xiao Xing say this, Grandpa Qin's smile faded slightly. He looked at Xiao Xing with a complex expression. Xing, you got married so hastily, without arranging anything. Don't you feel wrong?" Xiao Xing smiled. "How could I? These are all just superficial formalities. The most important thing is for two people to live their lives together. Besides, even if I did arrange those, I don't have any relatives to attend. How awkward would that scene be? Grandpa Chin looked at her with heartache and patted the back of her hand. Now you have us. From now on, Xiao Su and Grandpa will be your family. You can stand tall outside. A warmth flowed through Xiao Xing's heart. She nodded, MHM. If she had any apprehension about this unknown marriage just now, it was gone at this moment. No matter what the future held, she at least had a grandfather who genuinely cared for her. Seeing Grandpa Chin, she was reminded of Lin Yu's parents' attitude towards her. The first time she went to Lin Yu's home, his mother immediately gave her a cold reception. There were 4 vegetarian dishes on the table, and after dinner, everyone sat on the sofa, just waiting to see if she would clean up. When she left, they gave her a red packet with 100 yuan inside, but later they secretly told Lin Yu it was 1,000 yuan. These things were still vivid in her memory. Thinking of them, her nose couldn't help but sting a little. As the two were talking, there was suddenly the sound of a key turning in the lock outside. It was Chin Su returning. He had his suit jacket draped over his arm, a white shirt and black dress pants. Coupled with his tall stature and outstanding demeanor, he truly looked like a successful person. Xiao Xing voluntarily walked up, took the jacket from his hand. Go wash your hands and eat. Chin Su looked at her busy figure from behind, his expression momentarily dazed. He also suddenly realized that he was already married. He pondered for a moment, changed his shoes, and went to the restroom. When he came out, Xiao Xing had already served all the food. They were all home-cooked dishes. Since today was a special day, Xiao Xing also bought some seafood, a few large crabs. It was just that the atmosphere at the dinner table was a bit awkward. Grandpa Chin coughed and took the initiative to break the ice. Xiao Su, how's your job search going? Chin Su lowered his head and ate, saying without looking up, still looking. The food this woman cooked actually tasted good. He had been busy all day today and hadn't eaten a single bite until now. Grandpa Chin's face darkened. Xiao Xing quickly said, Grandpa, he's returned from abroad. Finding a job must be easy for him. He probably needs to compare a few companies before deciding where to work. Grandpa Chin opened his mouth, then sighed. Forget it. The marriage was already done anyway, and he couldn't be bothered with these things anymore. Chin Su wanted to test Xiao Xing's character, but he trusted Xiao Xing anyway and wasn't afraid of Chin Su's test. After dinner, Xiao Xing cleared the dishes and chopsticks to the kitchen. Outside, Grandpa Chin tapped Chin Su's knee with his cane. Aren't you going to help? Do you really expect people to wait on you hand and foot? The force wasn't small, and Chin Su's body stiffened for a moment. Go. Chin Su reluctantly stood up and walked towards the kitchen. Let me help you. Xiao Xing put the washed bowls into the cabinet and quickly said, No need. I'm almost done. Chin Su pretended not to hear her words, picked up a plate from the cutting board, and went to wash it in another sink. Xiao Xing paused her movements. She wanted to say something, when her phone suddenly rang. She wiped her hands on her apron, took out her phone to look, and it was Lin Yu calling. She subconsciously glanced at Chin Su. Chin Su was still focused on washing dishes, his sleeves rolled up, revealing a section of his arm. His long, slender fingers were washing the dishes, and honestly, watching a handsome man do housework was truly a pleasure. Xiao Xing watched, engrossed, forgetting to answer her phone. Chin Su suddenly turned his head and glanced at her. Aren't you going to answer? Xiao Xing froze for a moment, then quickly withdrew her gaze, hung up on Lin Yu, feeling a bit guilty. A sales call. Who knew Lin Yu was persistent and called again. Xiao Xing, annoyed, directly blocked him. When Lin Yu on the other end tried to call again, the call wouldn't go through. He, too, angrily threw his phone onto the sofa. His mother asked worriedly, What's wrong? She still won't answer? Lin Yu irritably said, She blocked me. Then what do we do? She can't really sue us, can she? How should I know? I'm annoyed. Lin Mu said. What's there to be annoyed about? I never liked that Xiao Xing in the first place. Her looks suggest she's not the type to settle down. If you really married her, who knows what your life would turn into? Besides, she took out that money herself. We didn't force her. If you ask me, she's just threatening you, trying to get this house. Paying 200,000 to get a house worth over $1 million? There's no such cheap deal. Son, since she's not answering your calls, just ignore her. Leave her alone for a few days. and she'll come back to you herself. Lin Yu's face darkened. He didn't listen to his mother at all. This woman, Xiao Xing, looked quiet, but in reality, she was very stubborn, always true to her word, and once she decided something, she would see it through to the end. They had been together for 2 years. Every time they went out on a date or for a meal, even if he paid, she would transfer half the money back. After Lin Yu told her not to, she stopped transferring money, but would secretly pay the bill the next time they ate out. In fact, many times, Lin Yu wondered if this woman had a screw loose. Why be so clear-cut in a relationship? Xiao Xing didn't know Lin Yu was cursing her. At this moment, she was facing a very perplexing issue. After she cleaned up the kitchen, Grandpa Qin sent her and Qin Su back. The two sat on the sofa, and the atmosphere was even more awkward than before. Do you want to take a shower first? Xiao Xing nervously wrung her fingers, feeling apprehensive about what would happen next. Qin Su glanced at her and saw her nervousness. She'd already had a boyfriend, yet she was acting so convincingly. He suddenly felt a bit impressed by her acting skills. No rush. Qin Su took a bank card from his pocket and placed it on the coffee table. Take this card. I'll transfer living expenses into it every month. Is 5,000 enough? Xiao Xing was stunned for a moment, then quickly waved her hand. We don't need that much. Our expenses for 3 people aren't very high. I think 3,000 is enough. You can give 1,500, and I'll put in another 1,500. If there's any major expense, we can discuss it then. Besides, you haven't found a job yet. You don't need to give me so much living expenses. I have a job myself. Qin Su pushed the card towards her. Just take it. I already said before that I'm responsible for living expenses. I haven't fallen to the point where a woman needs to support me. Xiao Xing. She suddenly felt that Miss Wu's earlier comment about him being ordinarily overconfident wasn't without reason. Xiao Xing sighed and picked up the card. What you said is fine, but I can't resign. I need to keep working. Suit yourself, that's your freedom. Hearing him say that, Xiao Xing's heart, which had been hanging, finally settled. She had thought Qin Su giving her 5,000 yuan for living expenses meant he wanted her to be a full-time housewife. All right, then which room do you want to sleep in? I've changed the duvet covers in all 3 rooms to new ones. Once you choose, I can move your things over. Qin Su looked around. Any is fine. Which room are you sleeping in? Xiao Xing's face felt a bit hot. She pointed to the bedroom on the right. That one. Then I'll take the one next door. Qin Su stood up, walked directly towards that room, and then closed the door. Xiao Xing sat blankly on the sofa. It wasn't until a long while after she heard the door close that her mind finally processed it. So, he wasn't going to sleep with her. That's great. This thought made Xiao Xing pause herself. Previously, friends had told her she had androphobia, but she hadn't believed it, thinking she just hadn't met the right person yet. Now, she seemed to believe it a little. She had dated Lin Yu for 2 years, and every time he tried to get intimate, Xiao Xing was very resistant, repeatedly making excuses that they had to wait until after marriage. Yet it was the same now. Xiao Xing didn't sleep well that night. The next day, she woke up early. Just as she was about to go to the kitchen to make breakfast, she was surprised to find that Qin Su was already up before her. He was wearing a gray tracksuit, the clothes clinging to his skin, clearly revealing the contours of his chest and abdominal muscles. Are you going for a run? Qin Su glanced at her, took off his earphones, then walked in, looked into the refrigerator, found no mineral water inside, and closed the fridge again. Finished running. Xiao Xing's eyes widened. She instinctively looked back at the clock on the wall. It was only a little past 6. You woke up so early? I'm used to it. Xiao Xing gave an awkward smile, turned to the kitchen, and boiled a few eggs. Qin Su sat on the sofa, watching her busy figure moving in and out, his expression somewhat subtle. Xiao Xing brought out the boiled eggs and then asked him, Are you in a hurry to go out? Grandpa probably isn't up yet. If you're not in a hurry, could you take these to him later? I need to catch the bus. I don't have time. Qin Su lowered his head and glanced at the sports watch on his wrist, nodding simply. Xiao Xing didn't know what his meant, but she took it as him agreeing. She grabbed her keys, took off her apron, and went to change her shoes, ready to leave. Unexpectedly, Qin Su also stood up and came out with her. Xiao Xing looked at him, puzzled. Are you going out too? Going down to buy a box of water. Let's go. Oh, Xiaoxing picked up her bag and followed him downstairs. There were 2 convenience stores in the community. She pointed to the nearest one for Qin Su. There's a convenience store over there. It's the closest to us. They've been open for over 10 years. Qin Su interrupted her. I know. Xiaoxing paused slightly, then quickly realized. Of course, he used to live here. Xing. This voice suddenly came, and Xiaoxing jolted, thinking inwardly, not good. She turned her head and, sure enough, saw Lin Yu walking over from somewhere. Xing, why did you block my phone number and WeChat? Xiaoxing glanced at Qin Su out of the corner of her eye. Seeing that he showed no expression, she then said to Lin Yu, We're over. Don't call me again. Are you still angry? I apologize. How about I take you for hot pot for lunch? Lin Yu, I'm married. I'm not kidding you. Only then did Lin Yu notice Qin Su beside Xiaoxing. He looked at Qin Su in surprise. Lin Yu wasn't short. He was 1.78 meters tall, and with shoes, he reached 1.8 meters. Yet, unexpectedly, in front of this man, he was actually shorter. Whether it was looks or physique, the man completely overshadowed him. Is that him? Yes, that's him. I'm really married, so stop bothering me. I don't believe it. You must have found an actor somewhere to deceive me. Lin Yu could tell at a glance that this man's demeanor was out of the ordinary. How could he possibly be interested in Xiaoxing? Qin Su wasn't interested in watching them play out a drama of lingering affections here. He turned to walk towards the convenience store, but Lin Yu suddenly called out to him. Wait, don't leave yet. Qin Su's steps paused. He looked indifferently at Lin Yu, with an impatient expression that clearly said, spit it out. Lin Yu scrutinized Qin Su up and down once more and asked, Are you really married? What if it's real? What if it's fake? Qin Su retorted. This attitude infuriated Lin Yu. Lin Yu pointed at him and said to Xiaoxing, You found this kind of man? Can't you see he doesn't like you at all? And you, do you like me? Xiaoxing looked at him coldly. Lin Yu, I don't want to see you again. How many more times do I have to say it? Xing, I'm just afraid you're being deceived. Do you even know what kind of person he is? I can see for myself what kind of person he is. It's not your place to worry about it. Xing. Xiaoxing interrupted him. Enough. I'm going to be late for work. Let's end this here. After saying that, Xiaoxing didn't bother with him anymore. She walked past Lin Yu and straight out. Lin Yu stared blankly at her. He hadn't expected Xiaoxing to be so heartless, completely disregarding their 2-year relationship. His fingers cracked as he clenched them in anger. His gaze shifted, and suddenly he set his sights on Qin Su. Brother, do you know what kind of person Xiaoxing is? Oh, what kind of person? Qin Su had been about to leave, but hearing this, he refocused his gaze on Lin Yu's face. Lin Yu said indignantly, We dated for 2 years, and a few days ago, we were discussing marriage, but it fell apart over whose name would be on the property deed. My parents worked hard to save money to buy me a house, and she actually demanded that only her name be on the deed. As if that wasn't enough, she demanded a 280,000 yuan bride price. We simply couldn't afford it, so she wanted to break up with me. Such a woman, and you actually dare to marry her? How much bride price did you give her? Qin Su's gaze was subtle. His eyes lingered on Lin Yu's face. After a moment, Qin Su finally spoke. I don't know what kind of person she is. However, speaking ill of someone behind their back, it's clear you're not much good yourself. Qin Su dropped that remark and turned to leave. Leaving Lin Yu stunned for a long time on the spot, he angrily shouted at Qin Su's retreating back, You'll regret marrying her sooner or later. Qin Su didn't pay him any attention at all, leaving Lin Yu with a cold, indifferent back. Lin Yu gritted his teeth in anger. He really didn't know what Xiaoxing saw in this man. He looked like nothing but a pretty boy with no substance. If it weren't for that 200,000 yuan, Lin Yu would never have come to Xiaoxing so meekly. He was also afraid Xiaoxing would actually sue him. Xiaoxing's company was far away, so she had to leave an hour early to catch the bus. After she arrived at the company, she found the atmosphere a bit strange. Besides the cleaning aunties, all other employees were busy cleaning the office, not even sparing the ceiling and light fixtures. What are you all doing? Xiaoxing pulled aside a colleague and asked. The person looked back at her. Didn't you check the group chat messages? Huh. She remembered she had taken leave yesterday afternoon and hadn't checked her phone all evening. Xiaoxing quickly took out her phone and opened the work group chat. Sure enough, The supervisor had sent a group message. It roughly stated that a very important client was coming today, and all staff were to come in for a collective deep clean in the morning, mainly to tidy up their own workstations. What kind of client is so important? Xiaoxing couldn't help but click her tongue, but her hands weren't idle. She quickly tidied her workstation. I'm not too clear. I just know it seems to be a foreign company. This year they're expanding their domestic business. It seems they're planning to cooperate with our company. Xiaoxing's company developed software and various hardware devices. Its scale wasn't small, and it was considered one of the top companies in this industry domestically. But seeing how much importance everyone placed on this collaboration, it seemed that foreign company was also quite significant. Another colleague walked over and said, I did hear a bit of a rumor. Reportedly, that company previously wanted to acquire ours. I don't know what they discussed, but this time, it's probably about negotiating an equity stake. The speaker was Zhang Shui, also a colleague from the administration department. Their administration department and human resources department were in the same office area. So, including Xiaoxing, there were 7 people in this office. Zhang Shui was well acquainted with the HR manager, so she must have heard it from the HR manager. Another person laughed and said, What does this have to do with us? Will an acquisition or equity stake affect my 3,000 yuan salary? Zhang Shui said, Don't say that, it really does affect us. If we're acquired, we might all face layoffs. But if they take an equity stake, we might even get a raise. Hearing about a raise, Xiaoxing's heart stirred slightly. Asterisk, if only I could get a raise. Asterisk. She really wanted to buy her uncle's house. If her salary increased, the pressure of repaying the loan later would also be less. Thinking that the house matter was still unresolved, Xiaoxing sighed worriedly again. She was a little afraid her uncle wouldn't agree, and also afraid that if her uncle agreed and Qin found out she was taking out a loan, he would definitely think she was scamming him into marriage. So, she had to earn more money to minimize her debt. Xiaoxing casually wiped her desktop. Actually, there wasn't much to tidy. Everyone tidied up daily. After tidying up, Xiaoxing went to the restroom. While she was washing her hands, her uncle's call came through. She quickly answered, Hello, uncle. Xing, I was busy yesterday when you called, so I didn't pick up. Is there something you needed me for? Xiaoxing hummed an affirmation. Yes, I wanted to discuss the house with you, uncle. Wang Yu on the other end was silent for a moment. Xing, I've already finalized arrangements for this house with someone else. We'll go through the transfer procedures once we're back. There's really nothing I can do. No, uncle. That's not what I wanted to talk about. What I mean is, about the house. Do you think you could sell it to me? What? Sell it to you? Where would you get the money? Don't tell me you're doing anything illegal. Don't worry about that. Anyway, whether you sell it to someone else or to me, it's still a sale. I'll pay you, that's all. Wang Yu sighed and earnestly advised. Xing, you're a girl. You'll get married sooner or later. Why buy a house? Isn't that a waste of money? It would be so much better if you save this money. When you get married later, your life will be better. With money in your own hands, you won't have to depend on others. Her uncle often told her this, and Xiaoxing had thought so too, which was why she had unreservedly given Lin Yu the money to buy a house. But what had it come to in the end? All because of the name on the property deed. He called her materialistic. Uncle, I grew up in this house, and so did you. Can you really bear to sell it like this? Wang Yu smiled bitterly. I can't bear it, but there's no other way. Do you know how much it costs to get married these days? Just the bride price alone. They're asking for 280,000 yuan. And then there's a house in the city center. A decent 3-bedroom apartment costs 2 or 3 million. Your cousin is 32, and he's finally found someone suitable. But she's a university student, so it's only right that she has higher expectations. If we try to pay in installments, it might not work out for us. Xiaoxing merely curled her lips. What's the big deal about being a university student? Are university students rare these days? Back then, Xiaoxing's cousin didn't like studying, skipping classes every day to fool around outside. After junior high, he stubbornly refused to go to school, insisting on going out to work. For this, he received a severe beating. Later, he somehow managed to borrow an ID card and secretly ran away from home, claiming he was going to make a name for himself in a big city. After all these years of striving, he still hadn't accomplished anything. Now he was more settled, having finally accepted his ordinariness. He worked as a warehouse manager at an electronics factory, earning just over 5,000 yuan a month, which wasn't even enough for himself. He relied entirely on his parents' financial support. Since getting this girlfriend, his expenses had increased significantly. This year alone, he borrowed nearly 20,000 yuan from Xiao Xing and hadn't paid it back yet. Xiao Xing still insisted, "Uncle, just sell the house to me. I'll pay in full. If you and Auntie get a wife for my cousin, you two certainly won't have anywhere to live, right? If you sell the house to me, you can still stay here for a few days when you come back for holidays later on." Xiao Xing's words touched Wang Yu. Wang Yu thought for a moment, then sighed and said, "It's still you, Xing, who's got potential. If only your cousin were half as sensible as you, your aunt, and I wouldn't have to worry so much. Oh, by the way, is that money from your boyfriend? I remember you were dating someone, a manager or something. Don't go wasting his money, or you'll have trouble explaining yourself later if things go south." "I know, uncle. I didn't spend his money." "All right then, I'll discuss the house matter with your aunt. If she has no objections, we can talk face-to-face when we come back next month." Hearing her uncle say this, Xiao Xing also breathed a sigh of relief. She smiled, "All right, uncle." Xiao Xing hung up the phone, turned on the tap, and washed her face, her mind preoccupied with money matters. It seemed she'd have to make another trip to the bank this afternoon to handle the loan application. Loan approval would take time, and so would the disbursement. Plus, she had no fixed assets to put up as collateral, so there was no guarantee she'd even get the loan. Thinking this, she pulled Lin Yu's WeChat contact out of her blacklist and sent him a message, "Return my money as soon as possible. Don't force me to sue you." After sending this message, Xiao Xing blacklisted him again. Fortunately, Xiao Xing had been shrewd back then. The 200,000 yuan was transferred electronically. If she had listened to Lin Yu and given him cash, that 200,000 would truly have been money down the drain. No sooner had she finished than Zhang Shui burst into the restroom, excitedly grabbing Xiao Xing's arm. Xiao Xing, that client is here. He's so handsome." Xiao Xing merely curled her lips. "Oh, what kind of reaction is that? Aren't you curious about how handsome he is?" "Not curious. What was there for a married woman like her to be curious about?" Zhang Shui pouted, her excitement draining from her face. She pulled her arm away from Xiao Xing. "How boring. I should have gone to greet him myself. I thought he'd be one of those pot-bellied old men, but he's actually young. I wonder if he has a girlfriend, or if he's married. It'd be great if I could even just add him on WeChat." As Zhang Shui babbled on, Xiao Xing couldn't help but burst her bubble. "Wake up. A rich, handsome, and successful guy like that definitely won't be short of girlfriends. Even if we stood in line, we'd be queuing for ages, and by the time he even noticed you, you'd be 70 or 80. The fantasy in Zhang Shui's eyes shattered. She sighed wistfully again. "You're so annoying. Can't I even dream a little? All right, go back to work." Xiao Xing wiped the water stains from her hands with a tissue, threw the crumpled paper into the trash can, turned, and walked out. Her department and the general manager's office were on the same floor, meaning she'd passed the conference room. As Xiao Xing approached, she saw 2 or 3 female colleagues loitering suspiciously by the conference room door. When Xiao Xing passed by, she also looked inside. But from that angle, she couldn't see much, only a back. Half of the person's body was obscured by the sofa, so she could barely make out a head. And there were several people seated, so she couldn't tell which one was the actual client. Zhang Shui raised a hand and pointed in front of her. "The one in the middle, see? Even sitting down, he's taller than the 2 next to him." Xiao Xing glanced at Zhang Shui, utterly speechless. "You guys are really too bored. What can you even see from here?" Zhang Shui was about to say more when a voice suddenly came from behind. "Are you all that idle?" The few of them instinctively turned around, and upon seeing their manager standing behind them, their faces instantly paled with fright. "We were just passing by." Zhang Shui immediately grabbed Xiao Xing and bolted. Xiao Xing was dragged back to the office. Unlike her infatuated female colleagues, she calmly opened her computer, her mind as still as water. In the meeting room, "Mr. Qin, we've held several rounds of board meetings these past few days, and we are truly honored by your interest in joining us. However, regarding the share distribution, do you think we might need to discuss it further?" Qin sat on the sofa, calmly looking at the chairman opposite. He spoke expressionlessly. I chose your company because you happen to be in your city, and your corporate ecosystem is relatively mature. You've already reviewed the contract. My terms and intentions are clearly stated. As for the equity distribution, you can discuss that among yourselves. In any case, 60% for me is sufficient. I don't believe there's anything to negotiate on that point. If you truly can't come to a decision, my professional legal department can assist you in resolving it. At his words, both the chairman and the general manager couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This man's appetite was truly immense. His words clearly implied that if they couldn't reach an agreement, he would simply resort to aggressive tactics and acquire the company directly. The chairman cleared his throat and chuckled dryly. Mr. Chin, everything is negotiable. You young people are just a bit impatient. My actual intention is still to cooperate with you, Mr. Chin. How about this? Let's both take a step back. I'll find a way to discuss the equity matter with them again. As for you, Mr. Chin, please humor me and increase your capital injection by another 10%. That way, I'll have an easier time explaining things to them. Chin's eyebrows subtly raised. Mr. Liao, you should be very clear that my capital injection and share acquisition isn't because I'm interested in your company's stock. It's because I value your company's products. After our collaboration, they will be integrated into my company's operations, and your subsequent profits will far exceed my initial investment. Having said this, he brushed non-existent dust from his shoulder, stood up, and added, however, it now appears that won't be necessary. Chinsa stood up, about to leave, when CEO Liao quickly stepped forward to stop him. Oh, President Chin, what are you doing? We're still discussing this, aren't we? If you're not willing, we can discuss it again. You're asking for absolute controlling interest. It's not like buying cabbages, right? How can it be decided just like that? I prefer to work with sincere people. SNC has invested so much, far exceeding the company's valuation. If I can't gain absolute control, then in subsequent business expansion, SNC would merely be serving your interests. If that's the case, why wouldn't I just sign a commercial contract with you? Why would I need to inject capital and become a shareholder? CEO Liao's smile began to falter. Yes, he had seen from the outset that Chinsu intended to integrate their company into SNC's industrial chain, which was in fact entirely beneficial for CEO Liao. But as for people, who would ever think they have enough money? Subsequent business ventures are all unseen and uncertain unknowns. Only what's actually in hand is real. That's why he wanted Chinsu to increase his investment. He thought Chinsu was young, naive, and rich, never imagining he had misjudged him. CEO Liao gritted his teeth. Since President Chin has said so, I won't beat around the bush. I can also see that President Chin is sincere about cooperating. Rest assured, I'll take care of the shares. I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. How long? CEO Liao paused slightly, then pondered for a moment. 3 days. I'll give you an answer within 3 days. Okay. President Chin, it's almost noon. How about we have lunch together? No, thank you. I have something else to do. Next time. After Chinsa finished speaking, he left the meeting room with his people. Xiao Liao diligently followed beside him, trying to ingratiate himself. President Chin used to live in Yicheng, didn't you? Yicheng has some unique specialties. President Chin must try them if you get the chance. Chinsu had only walked a few steps when he suddenly saw a hurried figure running out of an office not far away. A slight ripple finally appeared on his otherwise expressionless face. It was none other than Xiaoxing who came out. She was holding documents in her hand, looking down at them. This was last month's payroll, which she had calculated, but there were some issues during the finance department's verification, so she needed to go back and confirm with them. CEO Liao saw Chinsa stop walking and subconsciously looked up, following Chinsa's gaze. Xiaoxing was wearing a professional outfit, a white shirt, a suit jacket, and a knee-length pencil skirt. Flesh-colored stockings highlighted her straight, slender legs, a truly pleasing sight. CEO Liao wore an understanding smile. Her name is Xiaoxing, from the administrative department. She's mainly responsible for archives and logistics. A pity, though, she has a boyfriend. As CEO Liao spoke, Xiaoxing's back had already disappeared around the corner. For a CEO of Liao's stature, it was unlikely he'd remember such a junior employee. However, administrative staff are expected to present well, and Xiaoxing was quite striking among the many attractive people in both the administrative and HR departments. CEO Liao had seen her a few times and naturally remembered her. Qinsu said nothing, just nodded and walked towards the elevator. Xiaoxing had just handed the materials to the finance department when she saw there were 3 minutes until closing time. The finance staff told her to come back in the afternoon. Okay, I'll come back in the afternoon when work starts. Xiaoxing walked out of the finance department just as it was time to leave work. Zhang Shui came over to call her for dinner. The two went downstairs together. As they reached the lobby, she vaguely saw a familiar back. CEO Liao was talking to him and personally saw him off to his car. However, there were too many people leaving work, so the person's face was obscured. What are you looking at? Zhang Shui also looked curiously in her direction. Nothing. Where should we eat? Xiaoxing retracted her gaze. Maybe she had seen wrong. Why would Qinsu be here? Could he still be looking for a job? Let's go out and see. I don't know what to eat either. Zhang Shui linked arms with Xiaoxing. Just as they walked out of the company, Xiaoxing saw the person she least wanted to see. Lin Yu. Lin Yu hurried towards her. Zhang Shui pursed her lips and said irritably, "Your boyfriend is really clingy, running all the way here to find you at lunchtime." Xiaoxing stared at the figure, her brows furrowed. "He's not my boyfriend anymore." "What?" Lin Yu had already run up to Xiaoxing, panting, staring at her. "Xingxing, let's have a meal together." "Tisk, Xiaoxing, I really envy you having such a loving boyfriend." "All right, you two go eat. I won't be a third wheel." Zhang Shui teased and walked away. Lin Yu looked at her almost pleadingly, hoping she would give him some face. Xiaoxing was silent for a moment. She sighed. "Let's go." Lin Yu's heart swelled with joy. He instinctively reached for Xiaoxing's hand, but she dodged it. Xiaoxing walked a few steps. Then Lin Yu walked around in front of her, arriving at a Ford car. He very solicitously opened the car door for Xiaoxing. "Get in." Then Lin Yu walked around in front of her, arriving at a Ford car. He very solicitously opened the car door for Xiaoxing. "Get in." Xiaoxing paused slightly. "You bought a car?" Lin Yu looked a bit unnatural. He stammered. "Oh, I ordered it last month. I originally wanted to give you a surprise, but who knew you? Anyway, get in the car first." Xiaoxing really couldn't stand it anymore. She glared at Lin Yu. "Didn't you say you had no money? You couldn't even scrape together a down payment for a house, but you bought a car? Lin Yu, your scheming knows no bounds." "Xingxing, what are you saying? This car isn't expensive. Don't be so agitated. If I bought it, you could drive it too. How cheap is not expensive? And this car is also your premarital property, isn't it? You bought a house and put it in your dad's name, and then hurried to buy a car before marriage. Lin Yu, I truly have nothing more to say to you. I've changed my mind. I'm giving you 1 week to pay me back the money. Otherwise, you can expect to talk to my lawyer." Xiaoxing's voice wasn't loud, but it was rush hour, with people coming and going, so some still heard her. Lin Yu's face fell a bit. "Lower your voice. Can you just get in the car first? I have nothing to say to you. If you have this time, you'd better figure out how to pay me back my money." Xiaoxing uttered these words, turned around, and walked in another direction. She realized that ever since breaking up with Lin Yu, every encounter with him only served to deepen her negative perception of him. Lin Yu stared at her retreating back, his fingers clenching and cracking. After this disturbance from Lin Yu, Xiaoxing had little concentration for work that afternoon. As soon as 5 p.m. arrived, she left work and went home. The bus was so crowded her feet barely touched the ground. She then remembered Lin Yu's car, and an indescribable wave of sadness welled up again. Xiaoxing sighed, bought groceries at the supermarket outside her complex, and as she was carrying them home, a Mercedes drove past her into the complex. Xiaoxing paused, staring at the license plate number and blinking. Was that Qinsu back? The car stopped not far away. The door opened, and Qinsu got out. Xiaoxing stared at his profile. The more she looked, the more he resembled the person she saw talking to CEO Liao at the company entrance today. Xiaoxing, carrying groceries, trotted over. Qinsu. Qinsu took his laptop and a file bag out of the car, closed the car door, and looked back at her, then at the groceries in her hand. Finally, his gaze settled on her long, straight legs. Then, from her legs, it moved to her face. She was smiling at him, with 2 shallow dimples on her cheeks. The setting sun fell on her face, as if all its light had been captured in her eyes. This smile made even the sunset pale in comparison. This was the first time Qin had closely observed Xiaoxing. She hadn't put on any makeup. Her thick eyebrows were natural, and her slender eyelashes were also natural. If you didn't look closely, they seemed drawn on. The smile on Xiaoxing's lips faded a bit, replaced by a touch of unnaturalness. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Qin snapped back to attention and averted his gaze. He took the bags from Xiaoxing's hand of his own accord. "Give them to me." With that, he walked towards the house. Xiaoxing followed behind his tall figure, staring at his broad shoulders, and tentatively asked, "I think I saw you today." Qin's steps faltered for a moment, then quickly returned to normal. "Is that so? Where?" "Right at our company." "Was it you? Your back looked so similar to yours." "Our company is called Weisheng Technology. Were you there looking for a job?" "Yes, looking for a job. Our company is quite good, and the benefits are pretty decent. I'm quite familiar with HR. What position did you interview for? I can help you ask around." Qin suddenly stopped. Xiaoxing, caught off guard, nearly bumped into him. But because she was wearing high heels, she slammed on the brakes, lost her balance, and was about to fall flat on her face, tottering back and forth. Fortunately, Qin dropped the groceries and grabbed her arm, allowing her to barely steady herself. "Thank you. Thank you." Xiaoxing profusely thanked him. It would have been incredibly embarrassing if she had fallen. Qin noticed her hand retracting as if she had received an electric shock, and his eyes flickered. "You don't need to ask for me. I didn't pass." "Huh?" Xiaoxing looked at him in surprise. "You didn't even pass the initial interview? That can't be. Aren't you an overseas returnee?" "My major wasn't a match, so it's normal not to pass." Qin bent down to pick up the groceries. "What's your major?" "Finance." Xiaoxing was slightly stunned. "Finance? Their company makes software. It has nothing to do with finance. Why would he think of interviewing at their company?" "Oh, well, don't be discouraged. You'll definitely find a suitable job." Qin didn't reply to her. He strode up the stairs with the groceries, leaving Xiaoxing far behind. Xiaoxing didn't mind. She jogged to catch up. Now she cooked at Grandpa Qin's house every evening, and then returned to her own room after dinner. It was truly convenient. Grandpa Qin saw Xiaoxing had already left, but Qin hadn't. He had locked himself in his old bedroom, doing who knows what. Without a word, Grandpa Qin pushed the door open. Qin was in a video conference. He frowned when he saw the old man enter. Busy with his meeting, he had no time to pay attention to the old man. But through the video, he saw the old man behind him, who had found a suitcase from somewhere, packing his things for him. Qin's forehead twitched. He snapped his laptop shut with a bang and stood up, saying, "Grandpa, what are you doing?" The old man haphazardly threw clothes from the wardrobe into the suitcase. "You're a married man. Why are you still living here? Move your things yourself." "Grandpa, you." Qin irritably pinched his brows. "Just leave it. I'll pack it myself later." The old man ignored him, clearly distrustful. He quickly threw clothes into the suitcase, then went to the bathroom and tossed in his toothpaste and toothbrush too, like throwing away trash. Qin watched the old man speechlessly. Despite his shaky legs, he was quite energetic when it came to kicking him out. If he had known this, why would he have bothered to come back? He had wanted to accompany the old man to live out his golden years in peace. But instead, the old man was in a hurry to kick him out. The old man briskly fastened the suitcase and tried to lift it, but he overestimated his back. "Ow!" The old man cried out in pain, clutching his waist. Qin quickly walked over. "What's wrong?" "Sprained my back. It's fine, it's fine. I'll rest for a bit." The old man picked up his cane, tottered to the chair, and directly occupied Qin's spot. "Grandpa, wait until I finish my meeting. I'll carry it over myself." "What's the rush?" The old man glared at him. "I am in a rush. If you want to have a meeting, go have it at your own house. Don't bother me here." "Isn't this my house?" "This is my house." Communication was utterly impossible now. Qin truly didn't know what kind of magic potion Xiaoxing had given this old man. He took a deep breath, walked forward, picked up his laptop, tidied the documents on the table, and pulled his suitcase along. "I'm going over now." "That's more like it," the old man hummed triumphantly. Qin dragged his suitcase. The moment his front foot was out the door, the old man closed it. not showing a single hint of reluctance. Xiao Xing was in the bathroom, washing up. She heard a knock, quickly ran to open the door, and saw Qin Si standing at the doorway, holding his laptop and a pile of things, dragging a suitcase. What is this? Qin Si entered the room with a stern face, put his luggage in a corner, and went into the bedroom with his laptop. Xiao Xing looked bewildered. Who had annoyed him? His face was so sour. Xiao Xing couldn't be bothered with him and returned to her room after washing up. Lying in bed, she chatted with the loan manager she had added online during the day, consulting about a loan. Without fixed assets, it was very difficult to get approval. The manager told her she could try, but the chances were slim. The next month was only a few days away. If she couldn't raise enough money, this house would have to be sold to someone else. Xiao Xing threw down her phone, grabbed the quilt, and covered herself. She was so annoyed that she couldn't sleep all night. The next day, Qin Si happened to return from his run. He went to the refrigerator and took out a bottle of water to drink. Xiao Xing subconsciously looked at his chest. As he drank, his sportswear tightened, making his muscle lines even more defined. With his swallowing action, his Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Xiao Xing subconsciously swallowed, and suddenly felt a surge of thirst herself. Qin Si turned to look at her. Xiao Xing quickly lowered her head to get the water glass from the table, poured a glass of cool boiled water, and drank it with a clear attempt to cover her embarrassment. Drinking too quickly, she choked on the water and coughed uncontrollably. Qin Si stared at her with a strange expression. I'll go make breakfast, Xiao Xing said, her face red, as she escaped into the kitchen. A moment later, Xiao Xing brought out the prepared breakfast. As they sat facing each other, she noticed Qin Si was still looking at her. When she choked on the water earlier, water had spilled on her clothes. A large patch of her shirt on her chest was wet, and even the outline and color of her bra were visible. Is this woman deliberately trying to seduce him? What are you looking at? She caught a hint of disdain in Qin Si's eyes. Xiao Xing frowned and followed his gaze down. Xiao Xing. Xiao Xing sprang to her feet, darted into the room, and quickly found a new shirt to change into. Recalling Qin Si's gaze from earlier, she covered her face with both hands, wishing she could find a hole to crawl into. He wouldn't think I was trying to seduce him, would he? She truly felt she couldn't face anyone. Xiao Xing took a deep breath. Seeing the time, she realized she was going to be late for work. She shook her head, determined to forget this humiliating incident. She stealthily pulled open the door. He was unhurriedly eating breakfast, not noticing her. Xiao Xing gritted her teeth, pretended not to see him, and walked past him. Changed her shoes and walked out. Only after walking out of the residential complex did Xiao Xing finally let out a long breath. Upon arriving at the company, Xiao Xing immediately sensed something was off with the atmosphere. Her colleagues were looking at her strangely. Since she lived quite far, she usually arrived just in time every day, so she had no idea what had happened. Xiao Xing went to Zhang Shue's desk and quietly asked her, "Xiao Xue, has something happened?" Zhang Shue smiled at her, but her demeanor was noticeably more distant than usual, stirring a faint unease in Xiao Xing's heart. "Xiao Xing, your future mother-in-law was just here." "What?" Xiao Xing's eyes widened. "Lin Yu's mom was here? What did she say?" "She didn't really say anything, Xiao Xing. I just think Lin Yu is a really good guy. Why do you want to break up with him? If two people have good feelings for each other, that's all that matters. Why care about superficial things?" Hearing Zhang Shue's words, Xiao Xing already had a pretty good idea. Lin Yu's mother must have badmouthed her. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be looking at her with such expressions. "Xiao Xing, come here for a moment." The supervisor suddenly appeared, tapping on Xiao Xing's desk. Xiao Xing bit her lip and followed Supervisor He to her office. Supervisor He was a 40-year-old woman with a notoriously bad temper. Privately, everyone joked that she was going through menopause. Noticing Supervisor He's grim expression, Xiao Xing quickly reviewed all her work for the week before entering the office, ensuring there were no omissions or mistakes. Only then did she speak. "Supervisor He, is there something wrong?" Supervisor He tossed a tablet directly to her. A video was playing on it. Xiao Xing's heart sank. She picked up the tablet from the desk and tapped to play the video. Lin Yu's mother's voice instantly blared out. "Oh, what a sin. My Xiao Yu ended up with a woman like this. We can't afford that much in dowry, and she wants to break up. My old man and I have farmed our entire lives. She said she wanted to buy a house in the city, and we sold our village home without a second thought to buy one there. She disliked us, said we were dirty, and wouldn't live with us, which was bad enough. But now she's demanding a 200,000 dowry and insists we produce it within a month. Tell me, isn't she trying to kill us? Hearing these distorted facts, Xiao Xing was so enraged that her entire body trembled. The woman's skin was dark, her face covered in wrinkles from years of sun and wind exposure. Coupled with her plain attire and her tear-streaked face, she perfectly embodied the image of a hard-working, suffering farmer. Anyone watching would feel sympathy for her, believing her to be the victim. My Xiaoyu loves her so much. He's humbled himself and begged her. He hasn't eaten or drunk for days and has even been hospitalized. I've put aside my old dignity to beg her too. If she's here at the company, please call her out. I just want to tell her that we're not saying we won't give the 200,000. We just need a bit more time. Someone else tried to persuade her. Elderly lady, she's not at the company right now. When she arrives, we'll tell her. You should go back quickly. We have to work, and your presence here is disruptive. Xiao Xing had never known a person could be so utterly shameless. All for 200,000 yuan. She had cast aside all dignity. Lin Yu had failed, so now his mother had stepped in, intending to use public opinion to force Xiao Xing to compromise, to marry Lin Yu, thus avoiding having to return the 200,000 yuan. If she didn't marry Lin Yu, she would be branded as a woman who abandoned her boyfriend because he was poor and she loved wealth, ruining her reputation throughout the entire company. Truly venomous. Xiao Xing struggled to suppress her surging emotions. She put down the tablet and said to Supervisor He, "This is slander. Things aren't like this at all. I don't care about the details, Xiao Xing. Let me remind you, private matters should be resolved privately. Do not bring them into the company. What would it look like if a client saw this?" Supervisor He looked at her coldly. "I don't want a repeat of this. Go back and handle your personal affairs properly. If you can't resolve them, then don't come back to work until you have." The unspoken implication of that last sentence was that if she couldn't handle it, she shouldn't bother coming back, though Supervisor He had phrased it quite euphemistically. Xiao Xing clenched her fists tightly. "Yes, I understand. You may go." Just as Xiao Xing was about to leave, Supervisor He called out, "Wait." "Yes, Supervisor He?" Supervisor He pinched the bridge of her nose. "You've really made me forget the important business. It's like this. Director Liao just sent me an email. There's an evening social event, and he's arranged for you and Xiao Shui to attend and entertain a client. The address will be sent to your email later. Go early to make arrangements." Xiao Xing nodded. "Understood." After Xiao Xing returned to her cubicle, she discussed it with Zhang Shui. Zhang Shui would be responsible for confirming with the client, while Xiao Xing would handle booking the hotel. She went to the hotel that afternoon. Based on the number of guests and details Zhang Shui provided, she booked a private dining room and selected the dishes. According to Zhang Shui, the client they were entertaining that evening was the one who had visited yesterday. It wasn't just a casual social event, but likely involved discussing a contract, so Xiao Xing dared not be negligent. She double-checked all the dishes. Only after confirming everything was correct did she send the specific address to Zhang Shui. Just after 6 in the evening, Zhang Shui also arrived. Zhang Shui seemed rather excited. She latched onto Xiao Xing's arm, standing at the hotel entrance as they waited. "Xiao Xing, Director Liao assigned us to entertain such an important client. Doesn't that mean Director Liao thinks we're the prettiest in the company? Why couldn't it be because we're the most capable at work? Then he should have called Supervisor He." Zhang Shui retorted indignantly. For some reason, Zhang Shui preferred compliments on her looks over praise for her work performance. Xiao Xing couldn't argue with her, so she simply let Zhang Shui revel in her self-proclaimed beauty. In truth, Director Liao had specifically assigned these two purely because Qin Su had lingered his gaze on Xiao Xing a couple of times that day. When it came to business, one naturally sought to cater to the client's preferences. As for Zhang Shui, she was merely an add-on. Director Liao was simply concerned that only calling Xiao Xing might lead to unwanted speculation. Xiao Xing's feet were aching from standing at the entrance, and finally, at 7:30, Director Liao's car arrived. Zhang Shui immediately rushed forward with obsequious enthusiasm to open the car door for Director Liao. "Director Liao, you're finally here." Director Liao stepped out of the car, followed by several other company executives who had also arrived. Zhang Shui scanned the area, but couldn't spot the much-anticipated client she had been thinking about. Director Liao, has the client not arrived yet? Director Liao buttoned his suit jacket, glanced back, and said, they should be here soon. No sooner had he finished speaking than a Bentley slowly glided up, coming to a smooth stop right in front of the hotel entrance. Zhang Shui came to Qiao Xing's side and whispered, they're here. They're here. This client is really handsome. I absolutely wasn't lying to you. Qiao Xing, prompted by Zhang Shui's words, also began to feel curious. Just how handsome could this client be to excite Zhang Shui, a self-proclaimed beauty who usually looked down on others, to such a degree? Soon, the car door opened, and two people stepped out. The excitement on Zhang Shui's face instantly faded. How could this be? Manager Liao was also a bit surprised, seemingly not expecting that it wouldn't be Qin Su who arrived. The man in glasses walked over and extended his hand to Manager Liao. Manager Liao, hello? I am Han Yan, the Vice President of S&C. President Qin instructed me to come and negotiate with your company. Manager Liao snapped back to his senses, laughing sheepishly as he shook Han Yan's hand. Hello? Please, come in. Qiao Xing glanced at Zhang Shui. What's wrong? The client is here. Why aren't you happy? Zhang Shui pouted. He's not the main boss. Qiao Xing was stunned. This vice president was already incredibly handsome, young, and successful. A VP, no less. And Zhang Shui was still looking down on him. It had to be said, Zhang Shui's standards truly astonished Qiao Xing. Even someone like Han Yan was a man Qiao Xing wouldn't dare to dream about. She was well aware of her own standing. With her initial enthusiasm gone, Zhang Shui was distracted during the reception. She even used the excuse of fetching wine to slip out and slack off. With no other choice, Qiao Xing had to carry the wine herself, going around the table and pouring drinks for everyone. When she got to Han Yan, he gave her a meaningful look. Meeting his gaze, Qiao Xing felt an indescribable sensation. It didn't seem like he had any improper intentions toward her. It felt more like he was sizing her up as a person, or perhaps he was curious. Qiao Xing didn't understand why he would look at her that way. In her moment of distraction, the wine spilled, dripping from the edge of the table onto Han Yan's suit trousers. Manager Liao barked, Qiao Xing, what are you doing? Qiao Xing snapped back to reality and hurriedly put the bottle down, terrified. I'm so sorry. She grabbed a napkin from the table, but just as she was about to wipe it for him, Han Yan raised a hand to stop her. I'll do it myself. At that moment, Qiao Xing wished she could find a hole to crawl into. She couldn't believe she had lost her composure on such an occasion. Manager Liao said irritably, you can't even do a simple thing like this. What does the company need you for? Han Yan casually wiped the wine from his trousers. It wasn't much anyway. He looked up and said, it's all right. It was my fault for being too forward and startling your employee. My apologies. Han Yan's cultured demeanor left Manager Liao feeling a little embarrassed. He chuckled awkwardly. President Han is truly magnanimous. Qiao Xing, be more careful next time. Don't be so clumsy. Not everyone is as easygoing as President Han. Qiao Xing nodded sheepishly. Yes, Manager Liao. Thank you, President Han. Han Yan smiled. All right, you're not needed here anymore. You can go. We'll manage on our own. Qiao Xing glanced at Manager Liao, who gave her a look, signaling that she could leave. Only then did Qiao Xing exit the private room, deeply relieved. She waited outside for half an hour. Manager Liao and the others finished up soon after. Once the bill was settled, Qiao Xing dragged her exhausted body home. It was after 10 when she returned. The apartment was pitch black. She didn't know if Qin Su was asleep or not back yet. In any case, she dove straight into her room, threw herself onto the bed, and fell into a deep sleep. What she didn't know was that after leaving the hotel, Han Yan went directly to his next destination. It was a quiet bar with few patrons, and a singer on stage crooned a soothing melody. He sat down, unbuttoned his suit jacket, poured himself a drink, and downed it in one go. Drinking with that Manager Liao is really no fun, Han Yan said with a smile, then looked at the man across from him. I met your wife. Qin Su was resting his head on his hand, his gaze fixed on the singer. Hearing this, He turned his eyes to Han Yin. Are you that bored? Han Yin laughed heartily. I was just too curious about what kind of extraordinary woman could make you get married, so I did a little digging. But it seems you're not too satisfied with this wife of yours. In that case, why did you marry her? Chin Su picked up the drink on the table and finished it, then set the glass down and glanced at his watch. I'm heading back. I just got here and you're already leaving? Chin Su grabbed his jacket and walked away without looking back. We don't see eye to eye. Han Yin froze for a moment, then shook his head with a smile. That guy. It seemed he already knew what Han Yin was going to say next. He ran off so quickly. The next day, when Xiao Xing went to the office, she found that her colleagues were no longer speaking to her. They kept their distance whenever they saw her, as if she were the plague. It was most likely because of what happened yesterday. She didn't care. Most people at the company were only friends on the surface anyway, with no real friendships to speak of. Their department, and indeed the entire company, had no shortage of materialistic women, but no one had ever aired their dirty laundry so publicly. And with Lin Yu's mother having such a simple and kind image, Xiao Xing's actions had naturally sparked public outrage. Many people loved to stand on the moral high ground to judge others, thereby highlighting their own kindness and greatness. The video had fermented in the company's group chat, and many people had seen it. Xiao Xing was beautiful. There were plenty of men in the company who liked her, and women who were jealous of her. Now that they had the chance, they naturally had to kick her while she was down. Within a single day, the matter had spread throughout the company. Everywhere Xiao Xing went, she was met with mocking and scrutinizing glares, as if she were the most despicable and shameless woman in the world. When she went to the restroom, she could still hear the gossip outside. Actually, 200,000 isn't that much. I don't think her demand was that unreasonable. Not unreasonable. Lin Yu liked her so much, and she still looked down on his parents. If you ask me, she just couldn't let go of a good man like Lin Yu, but also wanted the money. You have to admit, she's pretty cunning, wanting both the man and the money. Yeah, I think so too. Lin Yu is handsome, a nice guy, and more importantly, a man with great potential. She was too hasty. She should have at least pretended until after the wedding. That's a fair point. Objectively speaking, who doesn't want a better life? It's her approach that was the problem. As the group was chattering away, Xiao Xing pushed open the stall door and walked out. Seeing her, their faces stiffened. They gave a few awkward smiles and scurried out of the restroom. Xiao Xing stared at their retreating backs, her fingers clenching into tight fists. So Lin Yu just wanted that 200,000 yuan? She wouldn't let him have his way. Not only the 200,000, but she was going to settle all their accounts from the past 2 years. She took out her phone, scrolled through her contacts, and found a number that had been sitting there for a long time. Xiao Xing hesitated for a long while before finally dialing it. The call connected quickly, and a man's voice came through. Is this Xiao Xing? Hearing his voice, Xiao Xing breathed a sigh of relief. He hadn't changed his number. Senior Liu, it's me. The other end of the line was clearly surprised. You actually called me? The sun must have risen from the west. Do you need something from me? Senior, Xiao Xing asked, a little uncertainly. I remember you're a lawyer, aren't you? Lu Yen smiled. Yes, what's up? Do you have some dispute you need my help with? I just wanted to consult with you. When are you free? I'd like to meet you and talk. Is tonight okay? I happen to be free this evening. Xiao Xing thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Okay. I'll send you the address shortly. Okay, see you later. Xiao Xing hung up the phone, walked to the sink, and washed her face. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she suddenly felt a wave of self-loathing. Loathing herself for being so blind, for allowing herself to be deceived by the scumbag's petty gestures and false kindness. 200,000 yuan. She had taken out 200,000 without hesitation, yet she never expected Lin Yu would use that 200,000 to relentlessly pressure her, revealing his ugly true colors completely. As it was almost time to get off work, Xiao Xing sent Chin Su a WeChat message. I have something tonight, so I won't be able to get back in time to cook. You and Grandpa Chin can grab something yourselves. The message seemed to fall into a bottomless pit. Chin Su didn't reply. Xiao Xing didn't care anyway. She packed up her things and left work. Chin Su had just finished up on his end. He took out his phone and saw the message from Xiao Xing. Something tonight. He casually glanced at it, then picked up his coat and walked out. She had sent the message at 5 o'clock. It was already past 7 now. If he drove back, it would be 8 or 9, and she would probably be home by then, so there was no need to reply. He was driving home when, at a traffic light on a commercial street, he inadvertently turned his head and immediately saw Xiao Xing in the coffee shop across the street. Xiao Xing and a man. The two were sitting face to face. He didn't know what they were talking about, but when Xiao Xing looked at the man, was she even smiling at him? So this was her something? Qin couldn't describe how he felt seeing this scene. He just felt inexplicably annoyed. Regardless of whether the two had any feelings for each other, they were still legally married, and she was his nominal wife. First she was entangled with her ex-boyfriend, and now she's appearing in a coffee shop late at night with another man. Does she really think he, her husband, is just for show? While Qin was still staring at the figures, a honking horn from behind urged him on. He withdrew his gaze, and with a somber face, he pressed down on the accelerator. Meanwhile, in the coffee shop, Xiao Xing neatly put away the documents and handed them to Lu Yin across from her. "Thank you so much, Senior." Lu Yin smiled and shook his head. "Don't mention it. Even if we didn't know each other, if you had found me, I would still help you." Lu Yin was wearing a suit, a gentle smile on his face, looking refined and elegant. Xiao Xing and Lu Yin weren't actually very familiar with each other. It was during her university days when her roommate took her to a party. Her roommate's boyfriend happened to be from the neighboring University of Political Science and Law, and Lu Yin was also their roommate. It's just that back then, Xiao Xing wasn't very good at dressing up, nor did she have money for it, wearing clothes from street stalls that cost only a few tens of yuan. All four of her roommates who went with them ended up hitting it off with their respective dates. Only Xiao Xing and Lu Yin were left awkwardly eating fruit. Then everyone started to tease them, wanting them to get together. To ease the awkwardness, the two added each other on WeChat and exchanged phone numbers. They hadn't really talked much since then, except for occasionally liking each other's moments' posts. They had only met that one time, and then again when Lu Yin and his friends graduated. After that, Lu Yin started working, and their interactions became even fewer. Her thoughts returned. Xiao Xing also smiled and said, "A thank you is still in order. You've kept all these pieces of evidence very thoroughly. Rest assured, even if you go to court, you'll definitely win." At this point, Lu Yin looked at the documents in his hand again. "I just didn't expect you could be so well prepared, even keeping the receipts for gifts you bought." Xiao Xing tucked the stray hairs behind her ear and smiled a little shyly. "This is all thanks to you, Senior. Don't you often share cases and legal knowledge on your moments? I read them every time, and they've truly been very beneficial." Lu Yin was first surprised, then couldn't help but laugh. "I thought you just casually liked them. You actually read them." "Of course. I thought maybe I'd need it someday. I didn't expect I'd actually use it." The smile on Lu Yin's face grew wider. He put away the documents. "Well, it seems my moment's posts weren't for nothing. It's getting late. I'll give you a ride back." "Thank you, Senior. You're always so polite," Lu Yin said with a helpless smile. Lu Yin drove her back. Because the journey was quite long, the atmosphere in the car was a little awkward. Lu Yin occasionally found topics to talk about, and as they chatted, they gradually became more familiar with each other. "Oh, by the way, Feng Jiao is getting married next month. Do you know?" Feng Jiao was Xiao Xing's dorm leader in university, and also the one who introduced her to Lu Yin. Back in school, Feng Jiao had been very good to Xiao Xing and the others. Xiao Xing had even received her care. "I didn't know. We haven't really been in touch since graduation. Is it with the original?" Xiao Xing couldn't recall her boyfriend's name for a moment. "No, they broke up about half a year ago. This is someone else." Xiao Xing was a little surprised. "Senior, you even know that?" "Don't call me Senior anymore. It sounds a bit awkward. Just call me by my name. I heard it from Huang Heng. Hengzi didn't pass his certificate exam again last year. Never mind. Let's not talk about that." Although he didn't finish, Xiao Xing roughly guessed some things. She smiled and didn't continue the conversation on that topic. "Then, son, what about you? When are you getting married?" "Me?" Lu Yin stared at the green light ahead and smiled. "I don't even have a girlfriend. Who would I marry? No way. Someone as excellent as you doesn't have a girlfriend. Too busy with work, no time to look." "Oh." As they talked, Lu Yin soon drove her to the entrance of her residential complex. After Xiao Xing got out of the car, she waved goodbye and thanked him. Thank you, Senior, for driving me back. I'll treat you to a meal after this is over. Lu Yin tilted his head and smiled. Okay, I'll definitely remember that meal. Xiao Xing also couldn't help but smile. The interaction between the two was fully observed by a pair of eyes by a window upstairs. Qin Si sneered, then turned back to the sofa. The moment Xiao Xing entered, she saw the man sitting on the sofa, arms crossed, looking at her expressionlessly. She sensed the atmosphere was a bit subtle, feeling somewhat like when she was a child, coming home late and getting caught by her grandma. However, the aura emanating from Qin Si was clearly not right. You're not asleep yet. Xiao Xing greeted him awkwardly. It's still early. Can't sleep. Xiao Xing subconsciously glanced at the clock on the wall. It's almost 11, and it's still early? As soon as she said this, she felt something was off. She only got back at 11, which was indeed a bit late. So, was he being sarcastic when he said it was still early? I went to see a friend, and we talked a bit late. I'm really sorry. He still had that aloof expression. Who you go to see? What does that have to do with me? Xiao Xing was silent for a moment. The atmosphere still wasn't right. She pretended to lower her head to change her shoes. Have you eaten? No. Xiao Xing paused her movements. She looked up at him in surprise. Didn't you see the WeChat message I sent you? No. Grandpa Qin didn't eat either, did he? Qin Si didn't answer her, maintaining his original posture. He was wearing a black wool sweater, which made his stern face appear even colder. I'll make you a bowl of noodles then, Xiao Xing sighed. At this hour, Grandpa Qin should already be asleep. She couldn't possibly call him up to eat. She silently went to the kitchen, took out eggs and noodles, and made Qin Si a bowl of tomato and egg noodles. Xiao Xing brought the noodles out and placed them in front of him. Eat quickly. Qin Si stared at her intently, as if he wanted to see right through her. Xiao Xing felt a shiver run down her spine. She hadn't upset him today, had she? In a bit. The noodles will get soggy, she said awkwardly. Qin Si finally retracted his gaze, looked down at the bowl of noodles, then picked up his bowl and chopsticks and put a strand of noodles into his mouth. Xiao Xing secretly breathed a sigh of relief. His movements while eating the noodles were extremely refined. A simple bowl of noodles tasted like Western cuisine when he ate it. His fingers were long and slender. The chopsticks looked like they were a segment shorter in his hands. Is it good? Xiao Xing looked at him eagerly. SOSO. He said that, but he ate the whole bowl of noodles. Xiao Xing felt she had troubled him. He ate it all, even though it wasn't good, not wasting any food at all. After several days of marriage, she finally discovered a fine quality in him. Thinking of this, Xiao Xing was no longer so depressed about her assessment of him. She smiled and took the empty bowl from his hand. If you don't like it, I'll make you something else next time. You should go to bed quickly. You still have to look for a job tomorrow, right? After Xiao Xing finished speaking, she took the bowl to the kitchen. Qin Si stared in the direction of the kitchen, his expression softening slightly. He had actually eaten in the afternoon. He didn't know why he had inexplicably said he hadn't eaten just now. Now he felt a bit uncomfortably full. When Xiao Xing came out, he was still sitting in the living room playing on his phone. Xiao Xing didn't bother him. She took her pajamas and went to shower. Just as Qin Si sent the message, a call came in. He answered the phone, and a noisy sound came from the other end, along with a man's voice. Old Qin, come out and hang out. You've been back for so long, and every time we call you, you never come. What's so busy about your lousy company? Qin Si frowned. Where are you? At the bar. Are you coming or not? I'll send you the location. Qin Si didn't say whether he would go or not, but instead asked, aren't you married? And you're still out so late. Why can't I go out just because I'm married? I'm married, not in prison. You're really asking such strange questions. Qin Si was silent for a moment, still processing the other person's words. Aren't you coming or not? You're going out so late. Where's your wife? At home, of course. You're a bit off. Oh, I know. Your old man is pushing you to get married again, right? Are you trying to learn the ways of getting along in marriage in advance? In that case, come over here, and I'll slowly impart my wisdom to you. No need. You go have fun. Qin Si hung up the phone expressionlessly. He looked up and saw Xiao Xing coming out of the bathroom. She was wearing fuzzy pajamas, her wet hair draped behind her head. She was really wrapped up tightly, even more modest than what she wore for work. Xiaoxing glanced at Qin Su. She hesitated for a moment, but still walked over and sat down opposite him. Qin Su, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Qin Su put away his phone and looked at her intently. Xiaoxing bit her lip, feeling a bit uneasy, but he would find out about this sooner or later. She mustered her courage and said, my uncle and aunt are coming back next week. I don't know if you ever met them when you were little. Qin Su showed no reaction. And then, this house belongs to my uncle, not me. After Xiaoxing finished speaking, she lowered her head and, steeling herself, said, I'm sorry, I lied to you before. After she spoke, she quietly waited for Qin Su to respond. But after waiting for a long time, he still didn't speak. Xiaoxing looked up at him, puzzled. Don't you have anything to say? Say what? You're not angry? Qin Su took a fruit from the table and slowly peeled it. Why should I be angry? His reaction somewhat surprised Xiaoxing. She continued, they originally wanted to sell this house for my cousin's wedding. I wanted to buy it, but I was short a lot of money, which is why I asked you for a 200,000 betrothal gift. Qin Su paused his movements and lifted his eyelids to glance at her. Since it had come to this, Xiaoxing decided to just confess everything in one go. I originally thought that after the house transfer, I would put your name on it, but I haven't been able to gather all the money. Now they're also coming back, so I wanted to tell you. If you're angry, or if you think I lied to you, then just consider this money as a loan from me. I'll slowly pay you back in the future. Qin Su was silent for a long time before speaking. So, you married me just to buy this house? Xiaoxing bit the bullet and nodded. You could say that. If you're angry, divorce is fine too. Qin Su directly ignored the last two sentences. He asked again, do you mean that as long as someone can give you 200,000, you'll marry anyone? Xiaoxing was stunned, not understanding why he suddenly asked such a question. She scratched her cheek, always feeling that his words carried a double meaning. It was as if he was saying anyone with money could marry her, like she was a commodity. Perhaps, in your eyes, are these things more important than marriage? The more Xiaoxing listened, the more something felt off. She stared at his indifferent face and cautiously spoke. Didn't you say the same thing? That it doesn't matter who you marry. Qin Su had said it when they first started talking, that it didn't matter who he married. That's why she decided to marry him. At least this way, she wouldn't feel guilty. Her words stumped Qin Su. He also realized what idiotic questions he had asked. He looked away somewhat unnaturally. Yes, I did say that. So, we both get what we want. You don't need to explain all this to me. What about the money then? The betrothal gift I gave you is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Xiaoxing secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although you say that, if I manage to buy this house eventually, I'll put your name on it. I won't take advantage of you. Whatever. Qin Su didn't want to argue about this with her either, and continued peeling the half-peeled orange. Xiaoxing secretly piqued at his expression. Seeing that he indeed showed no sign of being angry about this matter, she bravely said, there's one more thing. Say it. If my uncle and aunt come back, they might stay here. The room you're staying in. It's my cousin's room. Then I'll stay in the other room. That one's my uncle's. Qin Su's movements paused again. He looked up slightly, staring at Xiaoxing with an inscrutable expression. Then You can go stay at Grandpa Qin's house. They spoke in unison, but Xiaoxing was a step faster. After she spoke, the atmosphere suddenly fell silent. Even Qin Su's face darkened. She actually wanted to kick him out? Originally, Qin Su hadn't planned to live together in this room, but when these words came from Xiaoxing's mouth, he felt inexplicably annoyed, as if he were some sort of monster. Qin Su's lips curved slightly upwards, revealing the first smile in many days. But his smile made Xiaoxing's scalp tingle. He placed the orange on the coffee table, leaned back on the sofa, and quietly watched Xiaoxing. Don't forget, we are husband and wife now. Xiaoxing's eyes widened, and for some reason, her heart skipped a beat. This? I know. You know? And you still want me to stay at Grandpa's house. But there are no extra rooms, are there? Xiaoxing's mind didn't turn around for a moment, and she said subconsciously, regretting it as soon as the words left her mouth. Qin Su smiled, a laugh of exasperation. He suddenly stood up and strode towards his own room. Xiaoxing realized something was wrong. She quickly chased after him, only to see him already tidying up the things on the table. I'm sorry, my mind just went blank. Don't take it to heart. I just don't know how to tell them. Qin quickly packed his things. Before Xiao Xing had finished speaking, he picked up his belongings and walked out of the bedroom. Xiao Xing followed behind him, secretly annoyed. She really wanted to slap herself. What nonsense had she been spouting? She was still thinking of how to explain, when Qin had already carried his pile of things into her bedroom. Xiao Xing stood blankly at the doorway, and for a moment, all explanations flew out of her mind. Qin set down his laptop, turned to look at her, and asked, "What did you just say?" Xiao Xing blinked, then mechanically shook her head. Nothing. Then can I stay in this room? Why, yes, you can. Xiao Xing realized what he meant, and her cheeks instantly flushed. From the moment she decided to get married, she had already prepared herself. It was just that Qin himself didn't stay in the same room as her, and she had gotten used to it these past few days, so she hadn't thought about that aspect at all. Her face grew hotter and hotter. She turned and ran to the next room, exclaiming, "I'll help you get your luggage." Xiao Xing darted into the next room, found Qin's suitcase in the corner. It had barely been opened, and there were no clothes of his in the closet. She wondered if he was too lazy to unpack, or if he treated this place like a hotel, only staying for a short time. His suitcase and this apartment both felt disconnected, everywhere indicating that he didn't belong here, as if he could disappear at any moment. Xiao Xing calmed herself down. She took a deep breath, pulled the suitcase, and returned to the next room. She stood in front of Qin with her head bowed, and asked, "Do you need me to help you hang up your clothes?" He leaned against the doorframe, looking at her playfully, and said, "Sure." Xiao Xing pulled his suitcase into the room and opened it. It was truly messy inside. Clothes were piled haphazardly, along with toothpaste and toothbrushes. Water from a cup had spilled out, and several pieces of clothing on top were damp. Grandpa had packed this suitcase. Qin hadn't opened it since he picked it up, and he himself hadn't expected it to be so messy. For a moment, both of them felt their own awkwardness. Xiao Xing pretended to be busy helping him unpack his suitcase. She specifically cleared out half of her own closet to hang his clothes. Qin watched her for a long time, and finally walked out. "I'm going out for a bit." Not long after, she heard the sound of the door closing outside. Xiao Xing's movements paused. She quickly ran to the door to look and saw that his jacket on the sofa was gone. It seemed he had really left. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. But when she turned around, she saw a file list on the table and the document title peeking out from underneath. S&C Q1 Comprehensive Plan. Xiao Xing paused. She hadn't heard of S&C and didn't know which company it was. She reached out to take the document, but stopped herself just before touching it, quickly pulling her hand back. It was better not to randomly touch other people's things. After Qin left, he didn't come back that night, and didn't show up for several days afterward. Xiao Xing couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. She wondered if she had said something wrong that night, or if confessing about the betrothal gift, though he hadn't said anything openly, had actually made him very angry inside. She didn't dare tell Grandpa Xiao, but since Qin wouldn't come for dinner, Grandpa Qin naturally knew he hadn't been back for days. Grandpa Qin was so angry he was about to call him, but Xiao Xing quickly stopped him. "Grandpa, he might be busy. Please don't call him." Grandpa Qin snorted coldly. "How busy can he be? You've only been married a few days, and he's not coming home. What will happen in the future? Won't things turn upside down?" Xiao Xing saw that he insisted on calling, and she was a little anxious too. "Grandpa, he already told me he'd come back when he's done with work. Please don't disturb him." Grandpa Qin paused for a moment. "He told you that?" Xiao Xing nodded repeatedly. "Yes, Grandpa. Please rest assured, we're not having any problems." He was already angry about this matter. If Grandpa Qin called again to force him to come home, he would definitely think she had said something to Grandpa Qin, which would make him even more disgusted. "All right then," Grandpa said. "Grandpa will tentatively believe you. But Xing, if he bullies you, you must tell Grandpa, okay?" Xiao Xing felt a warmth in her heart. She smiled and nodded. "Okay, I will. With Grandpa here, he certainly wouldn't dare bully me." Only then did Grandpa Qin smile pleasantly. All right, let's eat quickly." Qin wasn't actually angry, but because he was genuinely too busy. He had been at the company these past few days, so busy that he had forgotten what day it was. The assistant walked over and handed a document to Qin Su. Mr. Qin, we've finalized the talks with Wei Sheng. Here's the contract. Please take a look. Qin Su nodded, took the document, opened it, and began reading it carefully. Mr. Qin, you haven't been back for several days, have you? Qin Su responded without lifting his head. But then, not knowing what he suddenly thought of, he looked up at the assistant. What day is it today? It's Saturday today. Is it? Qin Su glanced at the date in the bottom right corner of his computer. It was actually Saturday already. The assistant glanced at him awkwardly. Everyone in the company was saying that Mr. Qin was married, but seeing him not home for days, this state didn't look like a married person at all. No problems. Qin Su closed the document and handed it to the assistant. Then proceed according to the original plan. Okay, the assistant said. I'll have someone follow up on the progress later. You should go back and rest early. It looks like you haven't slept much these past few days. Qin Su nodded. He really should go back, otherwise that old man would complain again. Oh, one more thing, the assistant added. General Manager Liao asked me to inform you that you need to attend the shareholders' meeting tomorrow. I've already sent the time and location to your email. Qin Su picked up his jacket. Got it. You go back and rest too. He drove back to Qinghe Community. Just as he drove the car in, he saw Lin Yu and Xiao Xing again. Qin Su frowned. He was just about to drive past when Lin Yu directly slapped a card onto Xiao Xing's face. Qin Su, sitting in his car, even heard the sound of the card hitting her face. Xiao Xing was stunned. She stood frozen in place, the force of the card hitting her face making her stagger back 2 steps. Lin Yu had called her out, saying he'd repay the money, but she never expected it to be like this. And now, there was no trace of the tenderness or eagerness to please in Lin Yu's eyes. Only icy hatred and an indescribable fury. It's just 200,000 yuan. And you actually got a lawyer to sue me? Xiao Xing, I finally see you for who you are. You're nothing but an ungrateful bitch. Xiao Xing stared at him in disbelief, unable to believe those words had come from Lin Yu's mouth. For the past 2 years, he had never even raised his voice at her. But now, over this 200,000 yuan, he was hurling such vile insults. She didn't know what she was feeling, only that her heart had turned cold over these 2 years of wasted emotions. Even though she had already seen his true nature, she never imagined he could be this cruel when their relationship finally shattered. Xiao Xing laughed. Pick up the card. Now it was Lin Yu's turn to be stunned. What did you say? I said, pick up the card and hand it to me properly. Only then will it count as repayment. Are you insane? Lin Yu was fuming. He pointed at her and sneered. Xiao Xing, who the hell do you think you're fooling? For 2 years, you acted like some chaste saint, pretending you didn't care about money, and now you turn around and move in with another man. I bet you've been cheating on me all along. All that talk about spending your life with me. Bullshit. Just thinking about it makes me sick. Lin Yu was so angry he spat out every vile insult he could think of. You think you're some kind of saint? You told me love shouldn't be measured by money. But isn't that guy just some loser with a crappy car? Pathetic. Who are you trying to fool? He was currently competing for a promotion to finance manager. If this scandal blew up, the position would slip through his fingers. Lin Yu had been with this company since graduation, working diligently for 6 or 7 years. Just when he was finally close to his goal, this 200,000 yuan mess nearly ruined everything. He had always introduced himself as a manager to outsiders and bragged to his relatives about being the finance manager. If he lost this promotion, how could he possibly save face? He never wanted to repay the 200,000 yuan, but then, Xiao Xing had a lawyer send him a formal notice. Thinking about how he had groveled before her these past few days, begging for reconciliation, only to receive a lawsuit threat, it made him feel like a complete joke. He had been so furious he could have killed someone. But if he didn't repay the money, Xiao Xing would take him to court. Not only would he lose the 200,000 yuan, but he might even lose his job. So the moment he scraped together the money, he stormed over and flung the card straight at her face. Xiao Xing listened quietly to his tirade. When he finally finished, she suddenly raised her hand, and without warning, slapped him hard across the face. Smack! The air fell silent. Lin Yu froze. Even Qin Su, who had been about to step out of his car, was stunned. It took a long moment before Lin Yu finally touched his stinging cheek, glaring at her in shock. You actually hit me? Xiao Xing stared back coldly. Lin Yu, after everything you just said, you deserve that slap. 2 years of my life, and in your eyes, it was all just some disgusting farce. Honestly, I should thank you for taking me to meet your parents. Hearing the things they said woke me up, saved me from wasting any more time on you. And that 200,000 yuan was always mine. When I gave it to you, you said it was for our future home, for us. But your family schemed behind my back, putting the property under your father's name, cutting me out completely. Now I'm just taking back what's mine. What right do you have to be angry? If you disagree, we'll settle it in court. She took a deep breath, her voice steadying. Lin Yu, search your conscience. How have I treated you these past 2 years? After everything that's happened these past few days, you're the last person who has any right to be angry. Her words rang out clearly, drawing the attention of passers-by, who began whispering among themselves. Lin Yu clutched his face, still reeling, whether from her words or the slap, his cheek burned. Hearing the murmurs around them, he finally snapped. His hand shot up, ready to strike back. But before it could land, a slender hand intercepted him midair. Lin Yu froze. Slowly, he looked up and saw Qin Si standing before him, gripping his wrist. Seems you really are a piece of work. Qin Si's deep voice cut through the tension. Xiao Xing blinked, startled to see him back. Let go of me. Lin Yu struggled, but Qin Si's grip was unyielding. Qin Si looked down at him with cold disdain. Lin Yu, was it? You've repeatedly harassed my wife, disrupting our lives, and even posing a threat to her safety. So, he glanced at Xiao Xing. I'll be filing a formal lawsuit against you. Criminal charges. The words hit Lin Yu like a hammer. Qin Si released him with a flick, then pulled out a handkerchief to wipe his fingers, as if he'd touched something filthy. The gesture crushed Lin Yu's pride into the dirt. His eyes burned with humiliation. Wife, Lin Yu snarled. So you were cheating on me, Xiao Xing. You cuckolded me, and now you're suing me? I'll sue you too. You're a fraud. Both of you. Watch your mouth, Lin Yu. Xiao Xing stepped forward, furious. I married him after we broke up. Don't you dare twist the truth. Oh, everyone heard that. You broke up and married someone else right after? If you two weren't already involved, who would believe it? Xiao Xing, did you think I was an idiot? Her face paled. Breaking up and remarrying immediately, it did sound bad. You are an idiot, Qin Si remarked flatly. Lin Yu whirled on him. Who the hell are you calling an idiot? I'm complimenting you. At least you're self-aware. His expression didn't change. You. Qin Si wasn't complimenting him. He was outright calling him stupid. You damn cheaters. Just you wait. Lin Yu had no intention of humiliating himself further. He had come to repay the money and vent his anger. But now this man had appeared out of nowhere. Just as he turned to leave, the sound of police sirens cut through the air. Lin Yu stiffened. Slowly, he looked back at Qin Si. Qin Si answered his unspoken question. I called them. Fine, you're ruthless. Lin Yu gritted his teeth, glaring at the two of them, and turned to run. But Qin Si wouldn't let him run away like that. He grabbed Lin Yu's wrist and pulled him back. Let go of me. Lin Yu struggled desperately, trying to break free, but Qin Si's hand was like a vice. Lin Yu dug his feet into the ground, pulling hard backward, but unexpectedly, Qin Si suddenly let go. Under the force of inertia, Lin Yu stumbled back several steps and fell heavily to the ground, looking disheveled and comical. Lin Yu's face instantly turned crimson, whether from anger or shame. In all his life, he had never been so humiliated, especially since he was someone who cared a lot about his reputation. At that moment, he felt like killing that dog couple. But the police were coming soon, and he couldn't bother with his disheveled state. He could only swallow his anger, turn his head, and run out. Xiao Xing stared blankly at his retreating figure. He must have really disgraced himself this time, right? She turned to look at Qin Si, her expression somewhat complex. Thank you. Next time, remember to call the police. Qin Si dropped that line and left. Xiao Xing was stunned for a moment. She quickly picked up the bank card on the ground, then looked back. Where were the police? Xiao Xing followed, chasing after him. The two returned to the house. Xiao Xing saw him take out his laptop and work in the living room. He hadn't been back for several days, and she didn't know what he had been up to. Xiao Xing asked tentatively, have you found a job? Qin's fingers paused. He looked up at Xiao Xing. Yes, I have. What kind of job? As Xiao Xing asked this, her peripheral vision subconsciously glanced at the documents on his desk. The S&C logo was conspicuously displayed there. The S&C logo was conspicuously displayed there. Just as Qin was about to speak, the doorbell suddenly rang from outside. Xiao Xing had no choice but to put the matter aside and quickly went to open the door. Opening the door, for people were standing outside, a middle-aged couple and two young people, a man and a woman. Xiao Xing's eyes lit up when she saw them. Uncle? Auntie? Cousin? How did you get back so fast? Her cousin, Wang Yi, was the first to squeeze through the door and give her a big hug. Cousin, your big brother has missed you to death. Xiao Xing was squeezed so tight she could barely breathe. She patted Wang Yi's arm. That's enough. That's enough. All right, hurry and come in, Auntie urged. Only then did Wang Yi chuckle, release Xiao Xing, and carry their luggage into the house. Xiao Xing's gaze fell on the other girl. This girl was fair-skinned and beautiful, and quite tall, estimated to be around 167 meters, almost as tall as Wang Yi. This girl was fair-skinned and beautiful, and quite tall, estimated to be around 167 meters, almost as tall as Wang Yi. No wonder Uncle's family was so eager to come back for the wedding. With Wang Yi's elementary school education and a 5,000 yuan salary, to find such an excellent girlfriend was practically a blessing from his ancestors. Auntie actually hadn't thought much of Xiao Xing before, but hearing that she now had money to buy a house, she was particularly enthusiastic now, holding the girl's hand and introducing her to Xiao Xing. Xing, this is your cousin-in-law. Her name is Lily. Xiao Xing smiled and nodded at her. Hello, cousin-in-law. Lily's gaze also scanned Xiao Xing from head to toe, and then she also revealed a fake smile. Hello. After speaking, she carried her bag into the house. After everyone entered the house, they saw Qin on the sofa and were all stunned. This is, Uncle asked. Xiao Xing hurriedly ran over to introduce. Uncle, this is. She glanced at Qin, whose expression was normal, and said with some embarrassment, He's my husband. What? Wang Yi and Wang Yu both looked bewildered. Wang Yi pulled Xiao Xing aside and quietly asked, The photos you sent me didn't look like this. Did you get plastic surgery? Xiao Xing pinched him. No, he's Qin, have you forgotten? Wang Yi's brain seemed to short-circuit. He thought for a long time, but still couldn't remember. Xiao Xing reminded him again. Grandpa Qin's grandson from next door. Only then did Wang Yi suddenly realize. He slapped his thigh. Oh my God, it's him. I didn't even recognize him. Wang Yi, as if he had discovered a new continent, left Xiao Xing and ran to sit beside Qin. Qin, do you still remember me? I'm Wang Yi. We went to the same elementary school when we were kids. Qin furrowed his brows. With Wang Yi chattering incessantly in his ear, he was in no mood to continue working. He closed his laptop and turned to look at Wang Yi. Wang Yi's skin was quite dark, but his teeth were quite white when he smiled. His features resembled Xiao Xing's somewhat. Yes, I remember. When we were kids, you brought people to corner me in an alley and forced me to do your homework. Wang Yi. Xiao Xing. There was such a thing. Wang Yi cleared his throat. He chuckled awkwardly. That was just being ignorant as a kid. But you really were a little devil, weren't you? You pretended to agree to do it for me, but then you took my homework book and handed it over to my dad, which got me a good beating. Auntie also remembered. She smiled and interjected. I always thought this child would achieve great things. After so many years, you've grown even handsomer. Xiao, what kind of work do you do now? Finance. Qin tidied up all the documents on the table, stood up, and said, Since you're back, I won't disturb your catching up. Just as he was about to leave, Wang Yi pulled him back down. Where are you going? Didn't you marry my cousin? We're family now. Yes, it's so late already. Let's eat together, Auntie also said. Qin originally wanted to refuse, but when he looked up and saw Xiao Xing staring intently at him, he pondered for a moment before saying, I'm not leaving. I'm going back to my room. Only then did Wang Yi let him go. You rascal, I thought you were going somewhere. Everyone was busy catching up and didn't notice Lily's gaze continuously fixed on Qin. As soon as Xiao Xing turned her head, she saw Lily's gaze. She frowned slightly, but said nothing. Auntie insisted on cooking, so she went out to buy groceries. Xiao Xing, on the other hand, went into the room with Uncle and talked to him about buying the house. You're really going to buy it? Uncle sounded somewhat disapproving. Look, you're married now. Why don't you use this money to buy a place in the city? Young people nowadays all want to move to the city, but you, of all people, want to buy an old house. Xiao Xing smiled. I think it's quite good here, and I'm used to living here. I don't want to go to the city. If I have the means later, then I'll buy something in the city. Grandma always said, even leaves have roots. People should never forget their origins. This place used to be a village. Later, it developed into this area. The house was given to Grandma as compensation by the developers. The Wang family has lived here for generations. It would be too much of a pity to just sell it. Uncle also sighed. As long as you've thought it through yourself, that's fine. What about Xiao Su? Does he also agree to buy this old house? You two must discuss it thoroughly, so you don't end up having a conflict over this. I've talked to him about it. Xiao Xing felt this point was very good about him, unlike Lin Yu, who wanted her money and also dictated to her. Then as long as you two have agreed, that's fine. Xiao Xing directly transferred the 200,000 yuan to Uncle. As for the money in the card, it was Lin Yu's card, and she couldn't touch it. She had to make Lin Yu transfer the money himself, with proof and evidence. Otherwise, if she took the money from his card, he might cause trouble later. The room door was not closed, and Lily heard the conversation clearly from outside. As soon as Lily turned her head, she saw Qin Su coming out of the room. Their eyes met, and she was caught red-handed by Qin Su while eavesdropping. She didn't know if it was a guilty conscience or if the man's gaze was simply too sharp, but she felt as though he could see right through her. Qin Su, however, merely glanced at her before heading to the refrigerator for a drink. Lily's heart was pounding. She took a breath, put on a smile, and walked over to Qin Su. Wang Yi told me your name is Qin Su, right? Qin Su ignored her. He closed the fridge door and turned to walk away. But Lily, not giving up, followed him. Actually, Wang Yi and I have only been dating for a little over half a year. Qin Su paused, turned his head, and glanced at her. And Lily's smile deepened a few more degrees. Don't misunderstand. I just wanted to say that I don't know him very well yet. After hearing what you and Wang Yi were talking about earlier, I became quite curious about your childhood. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Wang Yi. Qin Su had to size up this woman again. She was very skilled with her words, using the excuse of wanting to understand Wang Yi to get closer to him. If it weren't for the shrewdness deep in her eyes, probably anyone else would have believed her. You can ask his parents. If you ask me, you've got the wrong person. Lily stepped forward again, blocking his path. This action made Qin Su's brows furrow. His parents would definitely side with him. I can tell you're a very honest person. You wouldn't lie to me. If you think there's a problem with his character, you're free to break up. The way you're going around behind his back, inquiring about him, it seems you're not truly serious about being with him. Lily was slightly stunned. She was about to say something else when Xiao Xing emerged from the room. Xiao Xing saw the two of them standing together, talking. She quickly walked over and asked curiously, "What are you two chatting about?" Qin Su didn't answer her. He walked straight back to his bedroom and closed the door. Lily gave an awkward smile. Nothing much, just wanted to ask about his and Wang Yi's childhood. What could possibly have happened during their childhood? Xiao Xing thought for a moment, recalling that Wang Yi and Qin Su seemed to have barely played together as children. Qin Su was a quiet, good student who always kept to himself, while Wang Yi was a mischievous and unruly wild child. The two simply couldn't have played together. He was just about to tell me, and then you came out, Lily said. These words subtly stirred up trouble between Xiao Xing and Qin Su. For a husband to be chatting with his cousin-in-law about childhood matters, a normal woman might not say anything, but she would still harbor a slight uneasiness. But Xiao Xing and Qin Su had only been married for a few days and didn't have much affection between them. Hearing Lily say this, she actually grew even more curious. Really? Was it about how my cousin bullied him when they were kids? Based on Wang Yi's previous scattered remarks, Xiao Xing could deduce that Wang Yi must have bullied Qin Su more than once as a child. So, was Qin Su complaining to Lily? This man really holds a grudge. I don't know, Lily said. Then, perhaps thinking of something else, she intimately linked her arm through Xiao Xing's. Cousin, You know Wang Yi and I haven't been dating for long, so I don't know him very well. Why don't you tell me? What kind of person was he when he was little? Xiao Xing pulled her to sit on the sofa and said with a smile, My cousin was very mischievous when he was little, but he's a good person. He's been loyal since he was young and is good to people around him. He's quite straightforward and speaks directly. You've been with him for so long. You should have noticed, right? So I can tell he really likes you. Lily smiled as she listened to her finish, and after a while, she said, Yes, I just find him quite candid and cute. That's why I'm with him. Hearing her say this, Xiao Xing's good impression of Lily increased significantly. Wang Yi currently had nothing to his name, yet Lily was beautiful and a university student. That she could genuinely like Wang Yi made Xiao Xing happy for him from the bottom of her heart. Wang Yi had also been good to Xiao Xing when they were little. He was several years older than her and had good connections with the school's ruffians. With him looking out for her, Xiao Xing never suffered any bullying at school, because everyone knew she had a cousin who was not to be messed with, and he often came to pick her up at the school gate. Are you from Yuzhou too, cousin-in-law? Yes, my parents are both in Yuzhou. My mom is a professor at an art university, and my dad is an operations director at a multinational company. Xiao Xing was a bit taken aback. That's so impressive. She suddenly started to worry a little about Wang Yi. Oh, come on, Lily said. They are them. No matter how capable they are, it has nothing to do with me. I've already told them about Wang Yi and me, and we'll find a time for everyone to meet. The two chatted for a long time. Xiao Xing felt that Lily was not only beautiful, but also very polite. Even though there was a huge cultural difference between her and Wang Yi, she didn't show any sign of disliking Wang Yi. She was just worried that Wang Yi wouldn't be able to get past Lily's parents when the time came. Soon, Aunt and Wang Yi returned. Seeing the two chatting so well, Wang Yi couldn't help but beam. Cousin, I'll show you what I can do tonight. What do you want to eat? Anything is fine. Cousin, you can even cook now. Of course, just you wait. Wang Yi said proudly, carrying the groceries into the kitchen. It had to be said, Wang Yi had indeed changed a lot. Even his cooking skills had become so good. In less than an hour, Chef Wang Yi had the dishes cooked and brought them out. It was mainly because it was Lily's first time visiting, so he had made the meal particularly sumptuous. However, Grandpa Qin was still next door, and Xiao Xing didn't know if she should invite him over, considering this meal was specifically to welcome Lily. It was Wang Yi who spoke up. Cousin, what about Grandpa? We're all family now. Why don't you call him over to eat with us? Uncle also chimed in. Yes, he's still living alone, right? Go quickly and call him over. Xiao Xing, however, glanced at Qin Su, who had just come out of the room. He walked straight to Xiao Xing's side. I'll go call him. Then go quickly. When Qin Su arrived next door and knocked on the door, Grandpa Qin, thinking he wanted to run away again, was about to close the door with a scowl. Qin Su, speechless, pushed the door open. I came to call you for dinner. Dinner, Grandpa Qin said, then, perhaps thinking of something. Xing Xing's uncle's family is back, right? I heard some commotion in the room earlier. Yes. Let's go, let's see. The old man liked lively occasions. As soon as he heard Xiao Xing's uncle was back, he immediately beamed with joy and came out leaning on his cane. As soon as the old man arrived, the room became even livelier. Xiao Xing helped him to the table, and Wang Yi quickly greeted him. Grandpa Qin, do you still remember me? The old man sized him up for a moment, then chuckled. Little Yi, is that right? Yes. I didn't expect your memory to be so good. Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Zhao Lily. You can just call her Lily. Hello, Grandpa Qin, Lily said, smiling as she greeted him. Grandpa Qin nodded contentedly. Not bad. You little fellow are about to get married. Grandpa remembers you were very mischievous as a child. Wang Yi scratched his head shyly. He didn't really want to bring up his childhood, dark history, so he changed the subject again. Oh right, Lily's mom is a professor at that. What school was it? Grandpa Qin, I remember you know a lot of professors, right? Maybe you even know Lily's mom. Really? Then what's your mother's name, Lily? Grandpa Qin asked. Unexpectedly, Lily's face suddenly stiffened. She forced a smile and said, My mom was only promoted 2 years ago, Grandpa. You probably don't know her. Upon hearing this, Xiao Xing couldn't help but glance at Lily. Grandpa Qin didn't press the matter further. Oh, I see. All right then, haha, come, let's eat. This old man, visiting someone else's house, had usurped the host's role, inviting everyone to eat with the demeanor of a true head of the household. This made Auntie's expression somewhat unpleasant, but she didn't show it, maintaining a smile and inviting everyone to eat. After the topic shifted, Lily secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She quietly held her bowl and ate. Without realizing what she sensed, she subconsciously looked up and suddenly met Cheen's probing gaze. Lily's heart skipped a beat. She quickly lowered her head, pretending to eat. She didn't know why, but this man gave her an inexplicable sense of pressure, making her inexplicably flustered. After dinner, Grandpa Cheen chatted with Wang Yu for a while, then went back by himself. Cheen also returned to his room. Thinking that he was now staying with her, Xiaoxing subconsciously didn't really want to go into that room. So she stayed outside, chatting with Wang Yi and the others, until 10 o'clock. When Lily went to get her beauty sleep, and Wang Yi accompanied her into the room, Xiaoxing had no choice but to stop delaying. She braced herself and returned to the bedroom. Cheensu was still occupying her computer desk, busy working on his laptop. Xiaoxing grabbed her pajamas and then asked him, "Cheensu, when are you going to sleep?" Cheensu's fingers paused, then continued typing on the keyboard. "Later." "All right, I'll go shower first then." Cheensu ignored her. Xiaoxing took her pajamas and went out to shower. She dawdled in the bathroom for a long time before finally returning to the bedroom. "Do you want to take a shower too?" Xiaoxing asked nervously, thinking that they might have to sleep in the same bed later. Her cheeks inexplicably flushed. Cheensu closed his laptop and tilted his head to look at her. She sat primly on the bed, wearing those fluffy pajamas with a hood in the back. It was hard to tell if it was pajamas or a sweater. Xiaoxing had just washed her hair, and it hung wetly on both sides, making her oval face appear much more docile and gentle, like a naive student of 17 or 18. It was undeniable that Xiaoxing was beautiful, with long, straight legs. Sitting there like that, she was undoubtedly challenging a man's self-control. But thinking that she and Lin Yu had dated for 2 whole years, Cheen's eyes darkened. He withdrew his gaze, as indifferent as ever. "You sleep first, I still have work." Xiaoxing secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had been looking at her like that, and she thought he might have some ideas. Now it seemed she was overthinking. So she found the hairdryer, dried her hair, and quickly slipped under the covers. But she couldn't sleep. The only sound in the quiet room was the tapping of the keyboard. However, not long after, the most terrifying thing happened. Sounds came from the next room. Lily and Wang Yu were being too loud. Xiaoxing grabbed the blanket and covered her head and ears, but the unbearable sounds still continuously pierced her ears, making her blush furiously. Those two really weren't holding back. Auntie and the others probably could hear it too. The sounds continued intermittently for a while. Just when they finally stopped, they started again less than an hour later. Xiaoxing was almost going crazy. She poked her head out from under the covers and stealthily peeked at Cheensu. He still sat with his back perfectly straight, focused on his work, oblivious to what was happening outside. Upon closer inspection, she noticed he was wearing Bluetooth earphones. Xiaoxing felt embarrassed. She also got up and patted Cheensu's shoulder. Cheensu looked at her in confusion, taking off his earphones, and the sounds from next door immediately pierced his ears. Xiaoxing's face was as red as an apple. She pointed to the drawer. "I'm looking for my earphones." Cheensu stood up, made way for her, and stood aside watching her bend over, rummaging through the drawer. Although her pajamas were thick, the neckline was still quite wide. When she bent over, from Cheensu's angle, through her scattered hair, he could vaguely see a good portion of the view. The man, who had always been calm, seeing this scene combined with the sounds from next door, finally showed a slight crack in his composure. He grew increasingly suspicious that this woman was consciously or unconsciously seducing him. "Found them." Xiaoxing pulled out her long and used Bluetooth earphones, then took a step back. "You continue. I won't bother you anymore." Cheensu was in no mood to continue working now. With a grim face, he snapped his laptop shut with a thud and walked out with it. Xiaoxing frowned suspiciously. What was wrong with him now? She just took out an earphone. It couldn't make him that angry, could it? Was it because she disturbed his work? Xiaoxing figured it must be that she disturbed his work. He really was a workaholic. But it was good that he left, saving them both from awkwardness. When she woke up the next morning, Qin Su still hadn't returned. Only Uncle was in the living room. Annie had gone out to buy groceries. Xiao Xing came out after washing up. Wang Yu saw her attire and asked, Xing, are you going out? Yes, I have something to do outside. Xiao Xing changed her shoes and took a bus to Lin Yu's house. She waited downstairs for Lin Yu to come out. After about 40 minutes, Lin Yu finally slowly made his way down. Now that they had a complete falling out, Lin Yu couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore. He hadn't changed his clothes or tidied his hair to meet Xiao Xing, looking very sloppy in his slippers. What are you doing here looking for me? Lin Yu glared at her irritably. Don't tell me you want to make up with me. I'm telling you, it's impossible. Xiao Xing couldn't be bothered to argue with him. She returned the card to Lin Yu. Here's your card back. You have my account number. Transfer the money to my bank account. I won't accept this card from you. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, then furiously said, Why are you so troublesome? Do you think the whole world is trying to scheme against you? Who do you think you are? Xiao Xing directly put the card into his pajama pocket, then took a step back. I trust others, but not you. Transfer the money to my account today. Otherwise, if it goes to court, it won't be just 200,000 anymore. You? Lin Yu was so angry his teeth itched. He almost slapped Xiao Xing, but Xiao Xing stood motionless there. He hesitated for a moment and put his hand down because there were surveillance cameras in the residential area. Xiao Xing couldn't be bothered with his nonsense. After returning the card to him, she left. Lin Yu watched her retreating back, his entire face somewhat distorted with anger. Xiao Xing walked out of the residential area. As she waited for the bus by the roadside, she suddenly received an unknown call. She hesitated for a moment, slid to answer, and put the phone to her ear. Hello. Is this Miss Xiao? Yes, who is this? The other end of the line said, Didn't you contact me before about a loan? I managed to get some leeway for you. When do you have time to come in for a discussion?